This time we'll call the Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021 meeting to order. Larry McDevitt, Mike Steinitz, and myself, Jack Woolley, County Supervisors. We have Lisa Smith, our auditor, Bjorn, our visual aide, IT, and Luann Goki, our administrative assistant. First on the agenda is David Dreyer, Jackson County Engineer. Morning.
Morning. Don't have a whole lot on the agenda. The first thing is a Caterpillar forklift that we'd be interested in purchasing. Current forklift is a similar model. It's an off-road forklift. It's 21 years old, and we're having difficulty getting parts. The new one that is quoted here has a trade-in of the old one for $6,000. So the estimated cost is $56,715, I think is the number.
575.
And that's new
Yes.
Brand new.
from Cat.
Yes,
And do
we
we have-
we looked for a used one, couldn't find a used one because we preferred not to have to spend the money for new. It's also an off-road, so it has dual wheels, which is necessary for us to work in the yard. These are pretty large machines because we have to offload steel beams, H piles, timbers, culverts, and things. So it's a heavy-duty vehicle. We have the funds in the equipment fund because the equipment purchases so far this year were less than we had anticipated, so we have some capacity. So this is what we like to do is pick up a new forklift. So Sean's here if you have questions. He knows far more about it than I ever will know.
So the one picture here only has the single tires on it.
That's right. Ours was pops up for the duals.
Okay.
It'll look just like it, only the drag tires will be dual.
And who's the Cat dealer?
Altor.
11,000 pound capacity.
Right.
That's big.
Isn't that what you have now?
And we have a 10. Actually, this new model is the new and improved model of our old model. So this replaced it.
So does it say how high it lifts?
Yes, it goes somewhere.
Probably a three stage.
3-stage, correct.
I didn't give you the full pad. I just kind of picked up the 132-inch mast. Is that it?
Yeah, that's right. 132.
Diesel? Yes.
Decent.
Diesel.
72 horsepower.
Well,
It'll
it's
last
nice
a
to
long time.
update. I think if you're having issues with the other one, it sure has a wear and tear on it enough that I would think it's,
It's had a long run. 21 years old.
not something that we have to bid out
Well,
specs and.
I called around for the spec and nobody can give me dual wheels other than Caterpillar, and everybody else wants to sell LP. And we've been down that road, I guess, before, so.
Yeah, LP didn't work for the shop environment. Diesel is preferred.
I don't have a problem. You need an action on it?
Yes.
If we're gonna buy it, we need action on it.
I would make a motion to move forward with the purchase of the Caterpillar forklift as presented.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye, motion carried.
56,715.
With the upgrades, 56,575.17. That's what I have.
Is that after the trade or before?
After
That's,
the trade.
yeah, that's after the trade.
Okay.
It's the. They can keep it 428 base.
You don't need that,
Could ask Bridgeport.
You can-
Thank you.
We could ask Mark Edwards, he got a lot sitting around out there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Shane.
Yes.
Item on the bridge, I just wanted to let you know, the Millertown Bridge last week, we think was struck by lightning and ignited the flood debris pile at the footing of the abutment. So we're getting close to see what it'll take to remove that debris and dispose of it. And then we'll get somebody in to check the abutment to make sure that the concrete is sound around that point where it was hit. I just don't think that vandals started this. It's in a remote, difficult location to get to. It's generally kind of a damp location, so it would take some high heat to get that going. The Wyoming Fire Department did a heck of a job for us and knocked down the little bit of flames that was there, and none of the heat reached the beams above the bridge, just the abutment there. So
So the damage that I see to the abutment was done by the fire, it popped off, got that hot?
I think that's where it might have been
Yeah.
hit. And
That's
then
what it looks
maybe
like. Well, you could do that too.
hit the
Could be either way.
hit
Yeah,
the
either way.
debris pile. We don't know.
So does this have to be like re-inspected or? do we
We'll
need to
we'll
get-
have, either we'll do it or the repair people just kind of sound that concrete with the chisel hammer around it to make sure it's not delaminated or anything.
So is it insurance money?
That's my next
They
question.
don't insure bridges, I guess.
It's fire.
That's the first I heard of bridge getting hit by lightning.
Yeah, we've never had it here, and I talked to other people, they've never had it happen, but it sure
Yeah, I don't know what
seems.
else would have lit that, because
And it's took that piece off like that, and we had the storm just that evening. Pretty good
I'm
lightning
kind
out
of
there.
curious about that, though, if we got struck by lightning, would it have something to do with insurances? So did we talk to Chris or no?
We did not talk.
We can certainly ask them. Okay.
I mean, I don't, for this, it's not gonna matter, I don't think. A masonry or somebody can repair that if it needs to be, but if there's other structural damage that we find out, then we better keep it.
I'll check with them. All right, yeah. And the other item on the agenda is bridge weight posting. On last week's meeting, you wanted an update on bridges with posted weight limits. So the first sheet are bridges weight limits in 2016. There are 54 structures at that time with weight limits, and then with the update here, I got the date wrong. It should be as of August 21st, 2021. Bridges with weight limits. So we essentially reduced the number that is on the list to 37. So we're making some progress. 7 of the bridges are on the 5-year road plan for replacement. Slowly whittle away at the program and start knocking off some of those smaller bridges with day labor projects. The Taylor Bridge is underway. The 380 culvert is done. So I think that the staff are doing good work. on
We're doing what
knocking
we
these
need
down.
to do.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is, so there's 4 of these on level B or C roads, and one of them was on that road that we closed down by Sevilla, right? That we don't have no maintenance on anymore.
Well, the C roads, we still have maintenance. We just have minimum maintenance. And so we still have to maintain the bridges, still have to inspect. Yeah, there's four of those.
so those will be like
Level
our
B.
last bridges we would
You're right.
get if we were knocked everything else off.
But I know that there's several on dead ends also.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and on this list, there's, I think there's 4 river bridges.
Those are the challenging ones.
Yeah, no doubt, or the pricey one.
Yeah.
So we just want to give you an update so you know that we're kind of moving.
Yeah, that's a nice list, that's progress. anyway.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, in 5 years, we've decreased, 17 bridges or
Yeah.
so. Not too bad, average.
And do we know a start date yet for
Late August,
August,
late August.
late August. And how about the
Couple weeks.
one?
September
September?
sometime, hopefully. September, October.
Barricades are all back in place?
Yeah,
As far as we know, they haven't been moved recently. So that's all I have on my agenda.
Okay.
Except for when Becky comes at 9:20.
We'll just call Becky now.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, she's- you're right. That's okay. I noticed we had some big claims this time.
Yep, it's an expensive claim. The grader is on there.
Lisa says for
There's
the. Thanks.
timber purchases, steel beams are on there, so it's pretty extensive.
380th Avenue.
Yeah,
Culver's done.
80,000 culvert.
Yep.
255 for motor grader, 75 for steel and 50,000 for lumber.
We gotta do these bridges.
Thank
Yeah.
God. Every 2 weeks isn't like that.
Well, that means we'd have to make a lot of progress, so wouldn't
Sure would. Gotta spend money to make money.
Yeah. Spend money to make money. Now, how are we making money?
No, that's what my father always said.
I know. My dad
Just
did
a
too.
project update, they're working, patching down on Z20 north of Springville. They should be down there another week and a half patching, and then hopefully we'll start asphalting shortly after that. And then the crack sealers are working, and then the Taylor's Bridge up there, they've got the bridge out, they're starting to do some of the dirt work for them. North of St. Denis.
And the extra or the new patchwork that we were gonna do, like West Water Creek and where else was that?
E17 from 61 over.
Have we been able to bid that yet, or
No,
see where
that
we're?
hasn't been sent out yet.
Okay.
I've got it about put together, but I haven't sent it.
Yeah, that, I drove that one the other day, that time.
No, it's not.
We starting that trail at Firstville on the 9th of August next week. Is that this week?
Okay, do you want to come up to
Is that
Becky?
where you
and
bring the
we'll-
pond on?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? So we are here today to visit and hopefully get approval to move forward with a risk management and safety proposal that was submitted. Prior to budget time, we talked to the board a little bit about contracting services for a safety consultant with Mark Schaefer. He provided us a quote prior to budgeting. We had him come up last week. He visited with the engineer staff and myself and kind of went through what the proposal would contain and a timeline and those kind of things. Generally, when he contracts with an entity, he looks at about a 3-year turnaround to get everything in place that you need to sustain the program that he puts in place. We, given our modification factor and some of the things that we've already done, work and all of that, David and I kind of talked and thought maybe we should start with 18 months and see where we're at with the process. I talked to Mark about that after we met. He was very comfortable with that. We can always extend or renew. Basically, he will come in and do an overall survey of what we have going on as far as safety and risk management. He'll look at secondary roads as an entity. He'll look at every department, and then he'll look at the county as a whole. He'll look at our past claims experience. He'll have some communication with our loss control representatives at ICAP and IMWCA. And at the end of this, hopefully we will have several manuals and guides and a fully functioning safety committee that he will kick off the ground and attend meetings during the term of our contract with him. And then we'll be hopefully exactly where we need to be as far as training and safety and all of that good stuff. So he'll work with the sheriff's department on a different level, that he'll work with secondary roads, and courthouse office is a little bit different. So he will put a lot of time and effort into each independent office to develop what we need for a safety program.
So with these assessments that he does, he's bringing back recommendations, of course, and did we talk about this with secondary roads also with Taylor Construction's safety person at one time? No?
There was a gal, I think that you had.
Yeah, there was a gal.
Yeah, there was another consultant that we had discussions with that kind of was always put on hold. pending
Charlotte,
kind
was
of
that
a
it?
larger- Yeah, we still will need the MSHA training because this gentleman doesn't do that. The MSHA is for mining.
Yeah.
Safety, and because we're going into the pits, we fall underneath there's actually a federal mining organization that handles the rules and
Kind of like
regulations
OSHA, but
for
for
that.
mining.
Yeah, and it's
Basically,
very,
our core issue.
yeah, it's pretty restrictive. So our employees will need to be trained in that, but we're looking forward to this, developing kind of a safety culture, updating and all the manuals and procedures, lockout, tag out, hazardous materials, all those types of considerations that we should have, developing a safety committee and a safety program so that we can review incidents, make sure that we don't have patterns and things that are just unique occurrences and that they don't, happen only once, those types of things. I understand the county's insurance claims are pretty low according to what.
Yeah, he was shocked with our modification factor.
Well, yeah, when our insurance premiums come out last year, we were shocked.
Yeah, yeah, I forget what he said. He said if we can get you,
0.57 or something. I don't
well, he
know.
said if we can get you to like a 0.80 modification factor, those are the things insurance companies like to see. And I said, we were at 0.67 this renewal. He was like, holy cow.
Yeah,
So that's one of those
that's
things,
a
we just
great
want to
thing.
maintain that.
Absolutely.
So we budgeted 50-50 for this. It'll be about $12,000, give or take a few dollars throughout a full year. We saved $172,000 on insurance premiums, that we're not paying into that pool this year. So this by far offsets that, but we do want to maintain that modification factor. So we're paying less premium every year. So this is just the way to go about that. So.
And he's worked with the Clinton County Secondary Roads. So I think it's not his first dance in dealing with the public works type organizations and things.
More than the money issue, the safety part of it.
And it is, yeah, and he's gonna bring forth some things, some safety items like secondary roads, they may be required to wear new things that we're gonna have to put some money in as far as budgeting,
Safety boots and things
that
like
kind of
that.
thing.
yeah.
So once he gets that assessment, I would ask him to present his initial proposal to the board, because at that time, he'll have a more defined timeline once he gets into
Okay.
everything and knows specifically where we'll be at going forward. We'll have him come up and give a report to the board after that assessment, and we'll kind of go forward from there. But, yeah. So if all is well with that, we would like the motion to approve the contract and authorize the chair to sign proposal. I apologize, not contract, it's a proposal.
So move. Second.
A motion and a second to approve the safety contract consultant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Meeting for.
So we put a start date to start working with him as September 1st, and it'll go through March or up until March of 2023 for this initial.
Well, it's nice to know that he covers all the departments, like you said, the sheriff
Yeah.
department. There's a different aspect than the secondary roads, of course, but that's.
Yeah. Yeah, and after we met secondary roads, they felt like they needed to have a sub-safety committee, which I agree on. So they need to be functioning as safety on their own because they are highly different. They're a large group of us. There's 32 or whatever of our 103 people. So he's willing to do that. And
So I know, with that being said, Becky, I know we have a safety committee here. And will he interact with that committee also maybe too when we have a meeting?
he will get them up and going again, and he will call the meetings and he will attend the meetings. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I know we laxed on them a little bit here in the past. but
And when you have somebody else coming from the outside to present those meetings and help you through that. I
Well,
think
we
it's
need
gonna
the
be a lot
knowledge
easier.
and the foresight.
Yeah. Yeah, and we also had 3 of secondary roads, 2 or 3 secondary roads, which is kind of hard to coordinate their schedules with the rest of our schedules. So having them act independently, and then one of these 3 between Mike, Stacy, and David can attend our safety meetings, we won't have to worry so much about if they're, on the other side of the county at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, so. So I think.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Yep.
Mike's looking forward to those.
Oh. Not short straw. I'm sure this is too.
I'm just kidding.
No straw. So that's it for that. I did just want to give a quick update since I won't be in front of the board again before the 16th. We have hired a new health administrator. The Board of Health offered Elizabeth Townsend the position. She will be starting with us on August 16th, the Monday. So a week from next Monday. She's originally from here and looking to relocate back. So working through the process with Department of Health to have the Department of Public Health and the DNR have her registered and all those good things that she's gonna need. But we should be on target to have all of that squared away so she can hit the ground running on the 16th.
Now that she's well qualified and.
Yep.
Been in the field.
Definitely.
Great candidate.
So yeah, we'll look forward to having her join us here in a week or so.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, gentlemen.
Okay, I don't see any visitors or citizens, so we'll move on to Lisa and her agenda.
Good morning. This morning, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the July 27th, 2021 board proceedings as written by Auditor Smith and authorize publication in the official newspapers.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Motion needed to approve and authorize the auditor's office to issue warrants in the publication of the claims listing in the amount of $577,586.92.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the claims. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Any notes on that?
Well, I said it during his 80,000 for the culvert, 255,000 for the motor grader, $75,000 in steel and $50,000 in lumber.
Yeah, so it's 495 in engineers.
Yeah.
That's progress.
Yeah. Motion needed to accept, place on file, and authorize the chair's signature on the county recorder's report of fees collected for the month of July 2021 in the amount of $49,404.61.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the quarterly report from the recorder's office. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Motion needed to approve the renewal of a Class C liquor license with outdoor service and Sunday sales to Bluff Lake at 9301 85th Avenue, Makoka, effective July 18th, 2021 to July 17th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
That was second.
Motion and a second to approve the Class C liquor license for Bluff Lakes. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Motion needed to approve the renewal of a Class C beer permit to SNK Gas and Food LLC at 18820 W Cascade Road, Zawingle, effective July 1st, 2021 until June 30th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the Class C beer permit to CNK. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
That's all that I have for the board today. Thank you.
I guess from our department head meeting last week and in a discussion that we've had, we wanted to try and revamp the office space up there before the new health person comes. And of course, I understand Marty is gone again today and tomorrow, or yesterday and
He was
today.
gone yesterday and today.
So I think we need to talk with Christina and look
She's
at,
not here this week.
well, look at the space up there
Yeah.
and see what we can do to get that more work friendly. Except to me, it needs to be cleaned out and rearranged.
As I said, Christina is on vacation this week, so what I have been understanding is that Christina has been having conversations with Becky and that they would like to remove some furniture that's in there.
Well, that's what she said last
Yes.
week at our department head meeting.
Yes.
Well, that old drafting table, or is that a drafting table or whatever it is? It's kind of cool, but I
It is,
don't know
yeah.
it serves no purpose in there and it takes up a lot of space, so.
I think what they need to do is to get their desk more forward instead of more back. But that's up for her to decide. But I know that Becky has had a conversation with Christina. And unfortunately, I'm not gonna be here the rest of the week, so I think either we're gonna have to attack it next week, or maybe somebody else can.
Well, I'll
maybe just
talk to
visit.
Becky
Okay,
and
yeah.
see. And
If she
see what-
left any ideas of how she wanted to start
yeah,
with that. I
maybe
know
she's
they-
told Becky what she might like.
Yeah,
I know Christina is up right inside
Yeah.
the door, but the old
well, and
sanitarian was back when.
and her back is to the
Yeah.
door, and you
Yeah.
know, we're trying not to do that. So we do need to move.
And I guess
Yes.
another thing that we need to do is we need to look at that space, and if in the future, we decide we're gonna look at possibly hiring an assistant.
Mhm.
We have to make sure that where that person would fit in that old scheme.
I think there's room there. It just needs to be rearranged.
Well,
It's
there
fine.
used to be 3 in there, but
Yeah.
we'll see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But I'd like to see that done before the new person gets here.
It definitely needs to be cleaned up. There's no doubt about that.
Well, we have, yeah. I don't know what, yeah, we can.
We're just
discuss it with
short
Marty
2
and
weeks.
Becky, but we have another full week before she starts, or no, we don't. Yeah, we do.
We have this
Yeah.
week and next
Today's
week.
third.
So just a short 2 weeks and we need to, so next week needs to
What do we do with the drafting table?
not get rid of it. I agree, it's a cool table.
Yeah, I
I would
think
hate
so
to
too.
see it
Well, don't we have room downstairs somewhere to put it?
somewhere. What I call the junk room is kind of full, but maybe we can rearrange that. It has a lot of excess storage in it, or excess equipment in that storage room.
Stuff we do not need, or do we need?
So in that room in particular, what happened is everything that was in our auditor's vault, when we got ousted out of our auditor's vault to make way for the sheriff's office to have an evidence room, everything from that vault went into what I now call the junk room. And so it does lack, and it's a priority of ours to get done. We just haven't had time. So the paperwork that's in that room in particular, those are lifetime papers. We can never get rid of them. And it's our hope to take a filing cabinet and to organize them and put them in.
So you can find.
Is
them
this
if
something
you
that gets
have-
digitized at some point too, or no, they just sit there and?
Some of that stuff you can't digitize. I mean, those are forever papers and I just don't see us digitizing them. I think there's some things that can be digitized, like old supervisors' minute books. That would be very easy to do. You know, we have some already done. But those are downstairs also. I mean, that room has got a lot of,
And we never did get an answer from DHS on the files that.
you know, I had several conversations with them about this and I thought that they were moving forward and I will say that the phone has been silent. So I don't know where they're at. You know, ourselves here at the courthouse, that was one of the things that we talked about in our department head meeting. We're at a point where we need to get rid of some confidential, we have to have some confidential shredding done. I would start with the auditor's office. I'm gonna guess that we probably have at least 30 plus boxes of things that need to be shredded. Iowa law says that we have to shred all of our ballots after a certain point of us retaining those. We probably have maybe 30,000 ballots that need to be destroyed.
And Lisa
confidentially.
did talk to the other offices
Yeah.
to have them go through what they have in their offices
Mhm.
that they might need to, or would be able to
Right.
shred.
Yeah.
So that if we can load everything up in one trip.
So is that something
Take them.
that we have to load and haul, or will there be a contractor like Dimmer that come in with a shredder and?
Well, that's what we don't know. I have to make a phone call to Demmer. I didn't know if he had a mobile shredding unit or not.
Because somebody has to be with that material.
Yeah.
So since it's confidential, they can't just ship it to DAC or ship it
We
somewhere.
can't do it.
They
drop
have
and
to
go.
stay there
Yeah,
while
no,
it's
yeah,
shredded.
Makes sense.
So that was the whole thing is we probably could fill the van full of confidential records.
But then you could
But
have
we
a
have to
day
set it
invested
up.
somewhere else too, or two people or whatever. Maybe I suppose it has to be two people.
Well, I mean, we just have to have someone stand there and watch it get shredded, so we know that none of the information that we have was breached.
So, yeah, like I
So
said.
that's something.
You're watching it, you say, yeah, that's right, but if the owner's there too, say, yeah, it got done. So that's, ain't that like we're doing with our deposits and all that too?
Well,
Goes through a double.
yeah, I mean, there's just all kinds of rules. But I think there's, you know, between GA and mental health and all of our election records. And I think, you know, some other offices have smaller needs. It's just too much for us to shred at one time. And I did look into having a mobile unit come here. It was pricey for what I priced out. And so I think it's probably more economically feasible that we load it here and even have someone watch it up there if we can do that. But I haven't had time to make a contact yet.
I would maybe send an email back out to all the offices and remind them.
Yeah.
That they're supposed to be checking that out so
Yeah.
that if and when we get to a point where we have the material that we want to have shredded, everybody's included.
Here's what I can tell you. It's not gonna get done in the month of August. We have no time.
No,
So we'll be looking maybe more towards September. We're gonna try and get it in between property taxes and before the election.
Hmm.
So that's kind of our goal. at this point. So, and I can reach back out to DHS if you want. Tracy Gale is my contact when it comes to that.
It'd be nice to get that cleaned out there too. if it's
Well, I
possible,
mean,
you know.
We've been very patient. I
Yeah.
mean, we have, but it's time.
But there's a lot of space there, you know, that's the thing.
I think there was 33 or 35 filing
Yeah, I
cabinets.
think
wasn't
you're
there?
right.
That's what you said,
Yeah.
35.
So,
That takes up a lot of room.
yeah,
Well, it's a nice building.
it is. It's a nice storage facility there, but we just need to have them move forward so we can,
Where's that?
at the Andrew
That's the
Johnson
Andrew.
facility. It's
It's on one of the wings.
Okay.
It's in the same building as the water tank.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
back there. That's where the piano's at.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Used to be.
Yes. Or two.
Or
But
two.
Yeah.
Diana's on an order.
There's a really neat organ in there.
Yeah,
But I guess I'd also say at the department head meeting, they were glad we had it
yes,
and they would like to have one every couple months or at least quarterly.
yeah.
So that they can discuss things and people know what's going on in the various offices.
Yeah.
Okay.
But some of them vented, but that was okay.
It's all good.
Absolutely.
That's what they needed to
We
do.
take constructive criticism. It's all
Yeah.
good.
So I looked at the building piano because I have one, and this one has a really good set of keys on, which I need. But the top of it, there's a hole in the roof and it's leaking right on top of that piano, so it's pretty much ruined other than for parts. So if you're gonna put filing cabinets out there, that roof needs to be addressed.
That's not in the same part where the file cabinets are. That piano's up by where the lawnmowers parked. The piano
Piano's on the
organ.
north wall. Okay, there is another.
But there's
filing
another,
cabinet.
that's not in the same part where the file cabinets are.
No,
Okay.
because that actually has a ceiling in it.
That's right next
That
to.
room
Yeah,
is a
okay. I
ceiling in
remember
it, yeah.
going through there. There's a lot of filing cabinets in there already.
That's it.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
full.
Hmm.
They're full 4-drawer filing cabinets that are full.
And
The ones that didn't
and-
go away, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lynn Bope said that nothing in there is, it all needs to be
Right.
destroyed. Because
It's
it's.
the
we gotta
state's
have
records,
permission
not
to
our
do it.
records. It's the state's
Yeah.
records. It's
Oh.
the state's responsibility. Department of Human Services is who I've been talking to. They came down, I visited with them. I went out there that day and determined that it was their records, not our records. And they were getting quotes to have on-site shredding done. Maybe they've had it done and they didn't tell me. I don't know. But I would think that they would have called me to get access into the room.
Well, Matt said something about that in his last email as far as project that they would in the future would like to have done. He said something about that.
Yeah.
So I doubt that. I bet.
Okay.
that's there.
I'm sure it hasn't been done.
I won't be this week.
No.
Sometime I will reach out to
Yeah,
Tracy.
no, yeah. Put it on the list.
Is that the one here that goes on and on? and on?
That's actually not our list. That's actually Marty's list. Yeah.
Okay, Luann, it's your turn.
All right,
Luann Goki, our executive assistant.
Good morning.
good morning.
Good morning.
Calendar for this upcoming week. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. is an RTA board meeting, either in Dubuque or by Zoom. So just let me know, I already talked, just let me know if you're gonna go up there in person or if you're gonna Zoom it.
In person.
Go in person, okay. So that is for all three of you. At 11:30 tomorrow is a workforce quarterly virtual lunch and learn by Zoom for Jack. And at 2 p.m. is a Mississippi Valley Workforce CEO meeting by Zoom for Jack. Thursday, August 5th at 11 a.m. is a tag meeting for Mike, which I'll let her know that you will not be able to make that.
I emailed it.
Okay. Monday, August 9th at 7:30 a.m. is an early childhood Iowa executive meeting by Zoom for Jack. And on Tuesday, August 10th at 9 a.m. is our next regular meeting. That afternoon at 4 o'clock is the Makoka River Watershed Management Authority meeting by Zoom for Larry. Just to let you know, I will be out of the office all week next week. I won't be out of touch. If you need me, call me. And I'd also like to let you know that on August 11th at 7 o'clock, the Town and Country Quilters are having a Quilt of Valor presentation at Timberlanes. So we make quilts for the veterans and present them to the veterans. So anybody is welcome. It's free to the public.
What time is that?
With,
7 o'clock.
I know with Christina being gone and I call in there and she automatically rolls it over and says it goes here. Do you do that with yours then too? You just said automatically rolls to Shelley or automatically rolls to somebody?
I have
There-
not done that. There's a message on there that tells them to call the auditor's office if they need immediate assistance.
They don't want to be bothered when you're on vacation. And you don't, there's no reason for you need to be doing that.
I don't check the phone messages, I check
Offsite.
the email. Is there something critical? Okay.
I guess at this time we'll recess till we're joined by John Hanson, who's going to be discussing the jail.
We do have a gap in here, so if you want to do your board and committees, meetings,
Pardon?
right? We do have a gap in the agenda this morning, so if you had your boards and committees, you can do that now.
Well, did anybody meet last week?
Iris, I think is the only one.
Oh, yeah. I think what's going on there.
I went back to watch it, actually.
I know Bellevue's moving forward.
That's what I was interested in.
Yeah,
They're moving forward with it and they're, the attorney's writing up the contracts. To
we
get
had to
the-
change the contract a little bit. It was for a 10-year agreement and the loans for 40 years. So they upped the agreement to 40 years and Bellevue approved it. So,
Yeah, they wouldn't do the loan for 10 years and they're, unless they had the same amount of years involved in it, yeah. So it is, the Dressler it is and is moving forward, yeah.
That's good.
They're preparing the easements and the DNR and the Corps and the engineers are all on board, so.
That's
a
good.
little discussion about Leisure Lake on the roads. When they put the water system or the sewer systems in, there was money there to repair them. And they're like, do we just patch or can we just use that money and redo the whole thing? It just makes more sense to redo the whole thing because they're at that age. They're going ahead with that. I know they're all up and running. I think that puts it up to 335 or something.
The only other thing I guess is our ARP funds. I mean, are we gonna set a special meeting or are we, I read how many things you have to read? I mean, I have a lot of notes of maybes or if we could do this or use something for this, but I went through and I watched it and I read it. But do we need input from department heads like? I know
We talked
Dubuque is-
about that last week at the meeting. Told them I told them all to put down a list of things that they felt. And then after our ISAC meeting, when we get some additional information, we can look at those lists and see what will fit, what we can do and what we can't do.
We have an interim report that needs to be done by the end of the month. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that we also need to fill out that questionnaire.
I sent it today.
Okay, good. All right, yeah.
Or
So-
Luann said that.
So yes, I got an email from the federal government, just came in last night. And it talks about the interim report. I also forwarded it to Shelley, so while I'm gone, hopefully she can take a look at it. And we can move forward with that. We did receive our first payment when it comes to the American Rescue Funds. It's actually in our account here. And we should receive our second payment in about a year. So we've got money sitting here and
And how much was it?
1.899 and
Half,
some change.
half of what we're getting.
We're getting 3.77 million and we received half of that.
So I know we had talked about the fiber and we're gonna make a few more calls and find out what we need to. We can move forward with that, or if we can get a contract with the bid we have, so it doesn't change in.
Amen.
Mhm.
The other thing that and Bjorn can speak about this maybe a little bit more, but we also have been, we have an opportunity to take advantage of a $9,500 grant. I think it's a good way to put it, for maybe some technology. And that was something else that we talked about. Bjorn did send an email out to all department heads. And I believe we'll be able to use all of that $9,500. I think where there's enough interest.
5 responses yesterday of offices that would like a laptop and one with a web camera, so we still have a few dollars left, but I gave them a deadline. I have to have it submitted by the 15th, so I told all the offices to let me know by the 10th so we can have it all organized, so I would imagine I will hear a couple more requests.
And then another thing we discussed at the department head meeting was the wiring in the courthouse for upgrade of
Yeah.
our speed.
That's a work in progress.
We did tell them we had budgeted some money for
Yep.
for this fiscal year to do some rewiring, and they all were happy about that.
Yeah.
Because they said it really needs to happen.
We actually have a lot of things going on. There's a lot going on and making sure that we meet all of our deadlines and keep everything in line is, We're busy.
Even speaking about the wiring, we gotta see if some of that will fall into the ARP
Right.
category, you know.
as long as we can say that we're doing some of this
Safety.
safety, social distancing, doing things differently because of COVID. I think it, and I really, I'm like you, I will be sitting in on that meeting when we go to Des Moines to see what they have to say.
So the 262,000, I think, for the emergency management room on the jail, is that come out of this money?
No,
That's different.
okay. We're close.
We're moving forward. How's that?
Okay.
That's what I understand.
It's in the bill.
Okay.
We think that we have a good opportunity to obtain that, but it's.
We'll see what
They're still in
the
session.
see what the legislators say.
We haven't been told no yet. I think that's the good news.
Right.
So that would significantly help our gap.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going back to the Iris thing, we talked about the loan for that Spruce Creek. And they approached the lender again, and they said they would maintain the interest at the 2.85 that was at. And I kind of suggested, well, maybe we should rebid that, just out of curiosity. What are we at with the jail bond?
2.1, wasn't it?
2.1, that's what I thought.
Well, but that almost, I mean, yeah, I guess, honestly, I haven't checked on that lately. You know, I know what we're getting on our ARP money.
Point
No,
zero
but for
two
the
five.
bond that we issued, we did,
We haven't locked anything in yet.
okay,
I did receive an email from our bonding attorney, kind of wanted to know just, how are we coming along? And we basically said we're still in a holding pattern. We hope to go to bed here October, November, December
I
sometime
thought we
this month.
locked some of that in, so we started paying on it.
We did not do that.
Yeah.
We were advised not to do that.
Right.
Our bonding attorney advised us not to do that.
So I hope that loan comes back. I mean, if we can drop, 7.75 off of that note over 40 years, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it keeps the bills down a lot lower.
Amen.
We'll just keep moving forward.
Do you want to recess the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
We're
no.
joined by John Hanson. And discuss the jail. And Rick, so we'll move forward.
Okay, so right now, Rick's come along real good on architectural. Structural is working on hardened structure over the EOC, which we added in precast and structural steel. So Rick is coordinating that with them. We're gonna be meeting with the sheriff today. Rick has a set of plans, progress plans we'll leave with you. Reason for the meeting with the sheriff today is to go over the secure door hard schedule, secure door schedule, hardware and security electronics, so that we can get the electrical engineer going on that. So I think we're making real good headway, and I would say, I won't speak for Rick, but I'd say we're probably gonna be October.
Towards the end of October.
Towards the end of October, but there'll
Put it
be
out to bid,
time.
is that what you're saying?
No, I still wanna wait till November to bid, but
Okay, what's the end of October? What are we doing in October?
the drawings finished, ready to go out to bid.
yeah, so that we can start approving drawings of the board and stuff and get them out, cause I wanna give them 3 weeks to 4 weeks to,
Minimum of 3, yeah.
yeah, to look at the drawings, so we are getting some interest in the project already. Woodruff Construction has a guy that lives right here, Brian Huska. We did Delaware County project
Oh, okay.
and worked with Jeremy on that. And he did a great job, but he lives in the Makoka area. So they're pushing real hard to get something going with you. So I would anticipate we're gonna have other times, so, you know, you're welcome to sit in on the meeting we're gonna meet with Alex on site first. I'll talk to you a little bit about site drawings, and then I was hoping to use the downstairs, so and throw out, I got a lot of stuff I gotta throw out, catalogs and everything else, so you're welcome to go over that.
What are we doing here?
This is just our progress set, show you where we're at.
That's the plans.
Oh,
Other drawings, it's just the architectural.
So,
We thought we'd leave one.
yeah, we can leave one for you guys.
We need to go to sleep tonight. You can.
if I need to look at this, I'm gonna need a bigger area.
Yeah, that's why we said downstairs. So if you want to meet, we're gonna run to the site and then come back, because I think you have 1:30 or.
Yeah, 1:30 to 2:30, I'm gonna,
Yeah, so we're gonna meet with Alex short briefly at 11:45. Come back here and then go through the secure door schedule and stuff with Brent, but if you guys want to go through the plans or anything, you know, you're welcome to go through them with us. And we'll take the time. You're looking at the site plan, that's why we're meeting with Alex, just to confirm. I would like to get it to the city, just to make sure that our setbacks, that they're agreeing with our setbacks and such. I think Alex has been in touch with Mallory over there, but just to make sure where we're at. Like I said, I'd like to move the metal building down a little bit. That way we could add a little bit of concrete to have concrete drive up to the steel building.
These yellow. Is there words involved in them that I cannot read?
It's room numbers.
You could have fooled me.
Yeah, well, the site plan, you know, he'll probably take all that out of there anyways at some point in time, you know, to place the building. That's why we have big sheets, but
Oh, I do see a 5.
yeah. Where, as you notice over there on east side, we're getting pretty close to that slope up there. So it's gonna take a retaining wall there to hold that slope back. So that's something we're working on. That came about when we put that parking over on the east side and flip flop the building to come in off the east side.
So the east parking lot, it's showing 1,001 with the 1,005. So you need to take out probably 4 or 5 foot of that up to the
We
wall.
could take out the whole east parking lot if you want.
I mean, just, you have to excavate it out to get a slope away from the building.
Yeah, a little bit, but we could take out the whole east parking lot if we wanted to.
Well, that-
And just
I mean, it's a long walk for somebody to go up and use visitation, but. You know, we might be able to eliminate a little bit of the retaining wall if we did that.
I guess I'm interested in seeing how much we gotta go.
So this is actual parking spaces where they're lined up, so the south parking area would have 20,
Yeah, and that's what I kind of discussed, if we could leave part of that out and maybe,
And Brent, you anticipate workforce to park in the west parking area? Is that what you're anticipating?
I think, I think my deputies probably will park on the east side of the building.
East?
Yes, on the backside.
yeah, because that's the main entrance to the EOC there.
Yeah, because then they can go by like the break room, the locker room.
Squad.
Yeah, squad room and everything's back along that north wall. So it's all kind of on their right-hand side, the interview rooms on their left-hand side. Keeps, you know, traffic from the front office area a little lighter. Jail personnel, I would suspect maybe, you know, there's usually 2 to 3 of them on at a time. Park them, they'll probably park in the west end, closer to the jail entrance.
And they would come in by the sally port there.
Yep,
Yeah. And, you know, office personnel park either to the southwest or in the south parking lot.
I mean, we could leave a portion, the south portion of the parking available, but not put it in right away. If we're getting into some numbers. The other thing that Rick and I we met yesterday for a while over at my office too, is that we would bid as alternates. The upper level, of the general population area on one side, and then the upper level of the maximum security on the other side,
Right.
and just have 2 alternates for the mere fact that it's mirror imaged on the other side, so we should have a cost for that.
Okay.
You know, so we won't have a bunch of alternates that will scare contractors off.
Okay.
11:00.
Yeah.
It'll give us a good working number anyway.
Yeah, give us a firm number anyways for that stuff.
I think 11:00.
I was wondering, have you made any headway on office furniture with the hospital?
We have first option
Yeah.
on anything that's up there.
I would get up there and take, a lot of that stuff was good wood desks and stuff like that. The kitchen equipment. I think that
Some,
Jackson
no.
County Fair was interested in it, but it really wasn't gonna meet our needs for what we want over at our place. I mean, it was a lot bigger than necessary. That's something that we gotta work through as we move forward. Rick talked to me about that the other day on, you know, mechanical engineers are wondering, what are we wanting in the kitchen? And that's something that we're gonna have to work through, but I gotta get through the secure door schedule, security electronics, so I can keep everybody moved, you know, so we can keep everybody moving. And then we'll come and address the kitchen of how we're gonna utilize that kitchen at this time and what we all want in there at this time
I think we'd want it so we can put a full kitchen in there.
at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
All
it's
the
dependent
drives.
on what you're putting in.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't putting in stove tops, because if you put a stove top in, then you gotta have.
Vented.
Fire suppression.
Yeah, and then you're creating makeup air, so you're talking what, $25,000 probably to get that.
Altogether.
Talking about the hood, right? Jim?
The hood, and then you gotta have a makeup air unit that heats the air before you push it through the hood.
Yeah.
Or you're just pushing cold air in.
The heat exchanger in there.
Yeah,
Delaware's using those hot plates.
Yeah, based on what we do right now, we definitely don't need a stove or anything like that.
I would think a convection oven would be, you can cook a hamburger in a convection oven. You put it in there and tell it, I want it ready at 2 o'clock, and you know, I would figure a double convection oven. I did look at that one over at the hospital area, and that one's not in terrible shape, you know, and stuff. Fryers, that starts falling back under the the hood deal. And with the nutritionist today, we're not supposed to be eating fried foods, but I know French
Said air
fries taste
fryer.
pretty good. Oh, air fryer, yeah. So there's ways that we have to go yet. But I'm really comfortable where Rick's brought him and his consultants, you know, the mechanical and electrical up. And I'm feeling pretty comfortable where we're at. I'm gonna go over the review set, you know, and
They have shown the hospital site to a couple different groups.
mhm,
My understanding is if one of them steps up to the plate to buy it,
that they're just gonna sell it with everything in it.
no,
Oh, they're talking about.
they're going to tear it down.
Oh,
So, if, I mean, we don't know if that's gonna happen or not, but if it does, then whatever is there that we might want, we're gonna have to get out. And we'll have to find some storage unit or something for us to store it for a period of time.
yeah. The other question, I had two more questions, but the EOC, have we made any headway on the grant that we're trying to get?
It's
for that?
still,
Work in
it's still
progress.
part of the legislation.
Okay, I didn't know if you needed anything from Rick or myself, you know, because we do have the hard structure, which is called for by code and stuff, but if you need anything from Rick or myself, if you let us know, we'll do anything we can to assist you in getting that grant.
It's been submitted and it's passed a couple tiers.
Mhm.
We're still in the running and
We're still waving at
they're
it.
still in legislation.
Yeah.
so,
We haven't been told no yet.
Nothing's on paper yet, 100%, the way it sounds.
Since our air quality in our existing facility is so bad, is it possible using the COVID money, you know, to get our for ourselves for the new construction? I don't know how that. I think that's all up in the air too.
As far as you can use some of that for the ventilation system or the air
On the
quality.
new, yeah,
On the air quality, yeah.
just thought, and you know, I'm just throwing out things, you know, because we talked about that we could experience now. Some of the costs have started mellowing out.
I heard that.
If we're using wood, we'd be a little bit better, but steel prices and stuff, I'm hoping. That's why I'm waiting until November to bid.
Okay.
Even if the plans were ready to bid in October, I think the longer we give it, the better off we're gonna be. as
I
far
heard the
as-
concrete had come down a little bit too.
Yeah, that concrete though, yeah, you know, we used to buy it for $35 a yard and, you know, we go make patio blocks out of whatever we had left over and dump it. And now it's $140 a yard. It's really gotten up there. So,
Yeah, it's, even the scrap guys are saying the steel's coming down now too, so.
yeah, the steel buildings are ways out. I guess I thought we talked before and we thought, well, we could go ahead and get some of that started, or do we want to wait till after we bid the project to see where we're at on that?
I would think you could look at it anytime you wanted to.
Okay,
I think it'd be
I
nice.
mean,
to
there's
have
several
help ahead.
locals around here that do that, you know, so I think we could figure out what we want or what size is this, and did we get the size down? Is it 40 by 60 or what is it?
I think the standard size is 40 by 64, and you know, some places. I just got one in Appaloosa County, a 40 by 64. And erected with a concrete foundation in it and everything. What was it? It was
You mean talking about with a footing or you just talking about?
with a footing and foundation wall up, you know,
Okay.
least 28 and 49 and 12,000 erection. So 28, 49, 12. 17. 19. It was in the range of 86 to 89,000. That was with concrete and everything. Some of them have ordered. I know Delaware was looking at putting one up. And they're 6 or 8 months out of getting it. So the steel, the wood and everything's starting to come down. So I don't think it would hurt to get a couple of local contractors identified. I know several of them around that have talked to me about the fairground project also. Which
Well,
one?
we have, I think, one contractor, local contractor has gotten the last 2 or 3 secondary road buildings.
Mhm.
Would be one for sure to contact, and then there's also a whip dealer, a couple whip dealers around here and locals.
So I imagine Lisa would, you'd probably have that
Yeah,
information from.
we can compile a list.
Actually, they know who bid on the 3 bids that we have for.
Mhm. Well, it won't hurt to start looking at it.
No, absolutely not, yeah, correct.
I mean,
I
because we're
They'll
gonna
tell
need
you, they'll tell
storage.
you the timeframe. Rick knows how far out they are, you
Mhm.
know, if it's a.
I mean,
I think the sooner the better for that.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's not a problem having that building there for the rest of your construction. As long as.
We
set
need
right
the
elevation.
building for the, I'd rather not rent an office space because that's, you know, by the time you bring a job trailer of any kind in, you know, you got, you know, $5,000-6,000
Mhm.
wound up in it. You know, if we build the building, we're gonna need it for storage. We're out in the middle of
Right.
where stuff could disappear rather quickly.
And we could use it for evidence and later, yeah.
Yeah, oh no, and so you'd be able to use it for vehicular homicides, you know, when you gotta keep blood pathogens or something, you're supposed to have them in a tempered facility. It's good for training and other things, so it's a multi-use building, you know, that you can use afterwards.
Has that been
So-
staked out where it needs to be placed?
Not exactly, well, it just on the site plan just drops.
It's on
in
the
there.
site plan
Well,
here.
if we're gonna go out. and
Doesn't
see-
matter for the bids, but we'll need the specs of what you want on the building, the pitch,
Yeah.
the gauge of steel.
Yeah.
It's gonna be built according to the specs that we did for our secondary road building. I would think of something of that effect, right?
Probably.
I mean, it's storage.
And what's our
bathroom,
tentative completion date for that?
That has not been established, it just got okay to look forward into.
Well,
No,
just so
but
we
if
can
we're
tell
gonna-
the
If
contractor.
we're gonna tell the contractor, we want it done by,
I'll
May
put the
1st.
spec together based on leases and then contact the contractors.
Yeah.
And then we can go out into those specific contractors. I don't think it would not necessarily have to be a public bid. It can be, if that's what you prefer. But that way I can work with the sheriff, say, okay, we want 2 overhead doors, this is what we want. I want a 16-footer and a 10-foot wide. Or whatever you want into that building, and then we'll just get a rough drawing, get it to the contractors. Tell them what we want, you know, we want 29 gauge or, you know, and because then we'll have to get electrical or plumbing into it, you know, depending on what you want.
So could we do it just like one of them storage, I mean, the maintenance sheds?
well, I think it's the
To get
same
the
type of
office
specs
to
we're
see it.
looking at. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
same deal. It's just
Yeah.
I would think so.
nothing special. It's a steel building with on a footing.
Yeah,
And you got your storage above the office area.
the maintenance may be a little bit higher on the concrete because they're probably got heavier trucks in there, you know, we're
Right.
not gonna need 8-inch concrete in this building.
Okay.
You know, we probably go 4-inch with rebar or something to that effect. And then surface mount your electrical, because then if you have to do anything in the future, but it'd be an insulated building. And we usually try to work with a local contractor, get a heat pump in there, you know, heat pump or 2 in there, so that we can separate areas and have some heating and cooling in there.
Climate control. Sure.
Yeah,
But you'll want that, so, because you'll be using that as your staging point and basically office, you'll want that done prior to starting this project, so is there
Yeah.
a timeline you want that done by, or?
well, we're anticipating if we bid it in November, lead times is still not shrunk totally, so this is gonna work out perfect for us. As far as award bids in November and then we start in the spring. But that allows us to get all the submittal process done, precast and everything, get scheduled bed dates and everything. So that when we start in the spring, we can keep the construction, you know, it's gonna make it attractive for contractors to start in the spring.
I get it. So what he's saying is,
I would probably need that you know, we'd probably do it in spring. Even if we got it ordered now, we could do it this winter, but,
So we're gonna tell the contractor we want it completed by April 1st. Is that right? Chris?
oh, unless we wanna go sooner, if we get a good enough price,
Yeah.
and we wanna go
Yeah, if they
sooner.
can do it sooner.
If
we'll
we can do it in
sooner.
November, we'll do it in November.
Absolutely.
Uh,
They're looking for
so,
winter work.
Yeah.
mhm. I mean, it's not gonna hurt a thing if it's built
If the
and out
footings
there.
in, they don't care what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just get the concrete down first.
Yeah, concrete would be the important thing there.
Yeah, and then we can get the building up during the course of the winter when they're looking for work too. So. I would say if we had it up in November, that'd be perfect, because then when we come out to work, then we got the office set up. As materials come in, we get them protected in there. So copper and everything isn't
I would say the
disappearing.
sooner you can
outside.
get it, all of the stuff that you're gonna need and put it out for,
Yeah, I would just talk to.
Yeah.
I mean, they got.
Why don't you take a trip down and look at the ones that just finished and see if it's what you want? If it is, we got it. You can go with it.
There's no
I
reason
mean,
it
the
wouldn't
last
be.
one's up in Otter Creek. You could go by there.
Mhm.
If you go down by Preston, Brenda, if you're down that way sometime, but it's a regular.
And these are the secondary roads building.
Yeah,
Just walk
They're
in,
the
take a
last
look
two
and see.
newest ones. I mean, they're nice built. I mean, if we're set on the 40 by 64, if that's a common
I-
truss
Yeah,
size.
I just picked the size at the time and
So you're anticipating putting doors, I would guess,
facing the south.
okay, so you would be on the, your gable end is on the east and west, though, right?
Yes.
So your what would be the height of that door, or what's the sidewall?
I was figuring I'm on a minimum 12 foot.
Yeah,
sidewalls
so
and
then
then,
what's the sidewall height gonna be, 14,
12 foot sidewalls, 10 foot doors,
10-foot doors?
unless you're thinking higher. I mean, you're probably higher at your secondary roads.
Yeah.
because of the
They're
trucks,
18 foot.
But I doubt you'd be.
I
pulling
can't imagine
anything.
you put anything more than a.
14. If you want 12-foot doors, you're.
Well, that makes-
Oh, yeah, but I
14
meant,
Yeah.
I don't know if you need, if that's what you want, but I don't know if you need 12 foot doors. If you're pulling ATVs or cars and stuff, I don't think you're gonna be pulling a full-size, a dump truck or anything through the doors, but if you want to,
They might put an ambulance in though.
why would you put an ambulance in the storage building?
Well,
Work on it. I mean, you've got to think of the worst case scenario.
yeah.
I would raise it 2 feet.
That's fine, that's what we need to determine what the length is you want.
Yeah, because some places will use say, take a mobile emergency operations center or something, something like that, unless we'd ever have something like that and want to back it in there, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have any trailers or boat stuff you use?
We don't have a boat right now, but, even trailers,
So that'd be like maybe an 18 foot boat behind an 18 foot truck. That's gonna be, just so you could have it in there all hooked up. So I don't think, that should work for that.
And if you're getting a big camper or something, even little campers, we might want to go 60.
Mobile unit.
No, I'm just considering your door height, and I don't know what a standard ambulance height would be right now.
yeah, once you go short, it's harder to go taller.
Yeah.
I
Things
mean,
don't seem to get
your eaves
smaller.
are only here, yeah. it's
So
low
we
profile door.
you were looking at 14 foot sidewalls with a 12 foot door.
That'd give you about 6 foot of headroom over the office area, and then on that point, 5. Those buildings where the office and restroom is, there's a deck on top for storage.
Yeah.
With the stairs going up.
That's pretty convenient.
No, but again, when you're gonna put your so-called office in this, you're not gonna be using the whole building. I mean, you're gonna be
Oh,
more.
we'll be using
Yeah.
the whole building because you got
It gets filled with stuff.
60, 200 plus pound frames coming in and then doors and
Yeah, light fixtures. are put in there,
hardwares, light.
Just all
fixtures.
types of construction material.
Okay,
So you get this enclosed, you're gonna store everything in there.
Yeah.
We got a real nice plan table we're looking for.
Yeah.
A what?
A plan table going down here that knows,
Oh,
drafting table.
drafting table.
Well, give us some thought. I mean,
Does it make
We can
sense
check
to
with-
have it 14 foot high and then drop it for, no, just keep it all
You're
safe.
creating a leak.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just as easy to go straight
It is,
through.
yeah.
And you're only talking 2 foot of extra steel around the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, give us some thought. What we can do is have contractors quote like a 40 by 64 and then a standard what's it to add to the next standard size,
Oh, okay.
and that way you can make a decision based on the material cost at that time.
John, have you ever done, so this is east-west, you got your long side, have you ever done a door on the east, or be the west side in this case? Have a door or two on the south and have a door on the west side, so you can back in long lengthwise, or is that not? They've typically done them, or,
I haven't done me and it can't be done, but typically,
Yeah.
you got your gable ends, I guess.
I guess what I'm thinking, Brent, is when we were down in Mount Pleasant, I believe, that's where we went to that building. But after the fact, they had partitioned part of it off, so the whole building wasn't heated.
No, it's all heated and there's three, but they partitioned part of it off for large evidence
Evidence
storage. So there's plywood behind it and then steel over it to harden that portion.
So the
of it.
whole building was foamed or insulated and
It's all insulated.
really,
Yeah,
I was thinking that gravel, didn't they have gravel in one part of it? No?
no,
No, I think they're, and then the approach is gravel, I thought on one side.
no, there's just gravel around the hydrant that comes up, water hydrant. Yeah, they even then paved the impound lot behind it.
Yeah.
And that's why if we move that over, we could do something similar here if we wanted to in the future.
Well, like Brent said, if we did move that building to the west, then you would have room on the east side to put a door on the gable end, which could be a taller door. And then on the, no,
Can't be a taller door.
it wouldn't be.
No, you wouldn't have that.
It's a truss that sits on top of the wall.
Yeah.
So you're still at 14-foot ceiling height.
yeah.
But you would have room to back in.
there, right?
Right.
You would have room to back in, so would one door on the south side be sufficient and one door on the west, on the east side? I don't know, but you gotta
That's
walk
what I'm
in.
wondering, you could,
Yeah.
Well, take a
You're
look at what
talking
you have,
extra
measure your
time.
vehicles in a trailer.
If you're worried about that, expand the building
Make it
deeper,
wider.
yeah, wider.
That'd make it easier.
And that way you got all your doors facing off concrete.
And to the south.
Yeah, and that makes a difference for melting snow and everything.
Yeah. But I think your cost wise, effective wise, you're gonna be more reasonable if you do the standard 40 foot rather than.
Well, there's also a standard, I think goes by 8 foot increments. When you
Right, this
48
is a pole building, right? You're
Yeah.
talking about? Yeah, 8-foot increments.
8 foot increments.
So you can go 48 by 72. As long as you hit that
Well,
8-foot.
the
limit.
width of the building wouldn't matter. It's the spacing of the truss is going the other way.
Mhm.
They're on 8 or 9 foot. So if you're gonna make it, if it's 40, if you want to go 42, all you're doing is increasing, you're not adding any trusses, you're just making.
Well,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
everything's based on an 8-foot stud length.
Mhm.
So if you add 2 foot, you're cutting studs to get that wall bracing around it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make it any size you really want, a pole building,
no, but like.
but just the
you're saying,
economics.
It's more efficient if you stick with.
Right, you stick
8
with the
increments
8-foot
because of the
module.
width.
I think what Larry was saying is if you increase the width, your truss length just increases by 8 foot. It doesn't
Right.
increase the amount of them.
No, it doesn't, yeah, the number doesn't change, no, they just get longer.
Yeah.
And the price goes up.
Oh, of course.
They go by board length, so. But why don't I start working on that and I'll stay in touch with you,
That'll be
You're gonna
fine.
be seeing more of me than you wanna see probably, but that's kind of where we're at this
No, we
time.
want to keep the ball in motion here.
I do too, so. Any other questions on where we're at as far as progress of the project?
What typically, what would that retaining wall be? Just poured concrete?
I would think that it could be that stackable block.
Oh, okay.
Like a
would be
retaining
less
step back
expensive,
thing?
yeah.
Okay.
Because we own more property than what we're showing, so we can step it back, and if for a retaining wall, you get into engineers, you know, they want that huge footing to support the retaining wall and everything else. And by the time you get it all formed up, you're a lot more expensive than coming in lanes, you know, compacting lane gravel and then.
Okay.
and then
So it's not like there's gonna be a lot of pressure on that wall anyway.
No.
It's just-
And they're stacked back, so they.
Yeah, but the engineers are much younger than I am now, and Rick will tell you that I don't think they have common sense anymore. So we want to control that to the extent we can.
Absolutely.
So depending on what, you know, we find out with Alex, I thought that he said it wasn't gonna be that tall wall, so.
I see the doors at 998, so that'd be 2 if you went back to the line at 106. You are about 8 foot high.
Mhm. And in 10 foot, yeah.
Yeah, if you got a level parking lot. And you could probably slope the grass some and then. Really, that's concrete all the way back to the wall. Right?
Well, I don't really want it to be concrete all the way back to the wall. Somebody's gonna back into the wall.
Well,
Okay.
I'd like at least a 2, maybe 3 foot.
Warning track?
warning track, yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, speaking of that, John, so if we have this retaining wall here, we slope that pavement, the parking lot pavement towards the wall.
you'll probably dip in the center.
And then take the water.
Take you up
south.
to the street or whatever.
Drain it out.
Mhm.
Or does it need an intake in there?
Mm.
Oh,
That,
depends.
that.
Can we run that
work
much water
without,
out to the street without taking it into a storm sewer?
But he's gonna have to answer that.
I wondered if we slope it to the east and then just
Some
run down.
cities allow and some cities don't.
Okay, grass strip or whatever, maybe it can run in there, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll work with Alex on that, you know, Alex will, you know. First we'll want to get the
He'll
building
understand all that.
placed, and then he's got to work on the grading plan
Mhm.
on how we want to grade and drain this.
And you're
thing.
meeting with him today.
Yeah, we're meeting with him at 11:45. So, any other questions regarding that?
So my only question was when we're starting and where we're at, and I guess I got that answered, so.
Okay. I had 2 other things go over with you. One, I got Rick fixed the fee on after we had a discussion last time, he fixed the fee on contract for as you requested. The fixed fee for phase 2 is $353,600. And then he's still going to honor the $4,000 deduct for the phase 1, the refund of phase 1 fees. So based on our discussion last time, that was based on the estimate of probable costs we originally had. And when we added the hardened structure, the structural engineer, it ended up being about $11,000 higher. You know,
So that was about the difference in it from.
yeah, it was 11,000. I got it right here, Mike.
Can that be sectioned off or put in with that part of the building to be covered with that number?
With the EOC.
Yeah.
We'll
Should be.
see if we get that.
$11,358 increase. So,
Just as long as we got a copy of that, so we can add it to that section if we can use that money for that.
I'm sorry, John, that number again was what, Lana?
$11,358 more than the rough estimate.
Okay.
And that was even rough. I think that Rick, you know, he's wanting to work with you on it, and that's why he kept his fees the same. And I mean,
Well,
we
we
did,
appreciate that.
so, I mean, he worked diligently to try to get his guys down to, you know, mechanical, electrical. But it's mainly structural. We added a little bit to building, and then we hardened the structure up above. So it'd be my recommendation that we go ahead and approve the amendment to the contract for a fixed fee of $353,000. Are there any other questions in regards to that?
I would make a motion to approve that.
I would second.
A motion and a second to approve and authorize the chair to sign. Is that included?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Hey, you want to sign 3 of them?
Are we on
I'll give
just
one
one
to
of
Rick.
us or all of us? It's one.
I need a copy of that.
Here you can have it.
Do you need
Well,
it?
you get sidetracked.
Yeah, you probably want to sign a copy of it.
That'd be great if I could have that.
The formalities, you know,
You know?
too many
Yeah, it
rules.
used to be just a dang handshake.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll do that.
Now the code anymore.
No.
So,
Oh, good, thank you.
So yes, Lisa's got your copy if you want. They give you a copy? Oh,
I need a copy.
yeah.
Can we go make a copy?
Huh?
I can go make a copy if you need. Okay.
I
You
can
had
just
4
sign it.
copies here.
Yeah, they'll
Sign
sign
another
it.
one.
So I want to go over the pay application. So every month that we'll get a pay application. All the invoices are attached to the back. And please don't send me the check for all of it. All the invoices be written to individual contractors. So when I do a invoice, I'll put in there what line it pertains to, like this one says line 1.1. And so if you come to your project cost recap, line 1.1 is schematic design. So there's estimated value and then the original contract values. Any change orders that we have, like you'll see a change order to Rick's for $4,000, $4,000 deduct on line 1.1. If you go to the next page, then every time we put a change in or we approve something, there's a note in there that says what actually happened, why it happened, and what goes on. Any purchase orders I'll list on that second page. We'll also keep track of the draw amounts there and any interest earned. But that's typically after we get the bonds. And if we get a draw schedule made up, it would be wise that we invest a portion of that money into these high paying CDs and stuff that are available today. But
We can't use.
so every time we have each invoice will be attached to this, there'll be assigned a specific line item. So this month, Rick had an invoice for $66,720 for schematic design. We had construction management fee of $6,800. And reimbursables, which was mileage, reproduction, and just mileage and reproduction printing. And then we have invoice from Chosen Valley Testing. And it's on line 3.3. And that was $4,050. That was for the soil investigation report that they completed. So We had a total of $78,220.83. On line item 6, contingency, that will track what our contingency is in the project on this line. So right now, we have a contingency of 5.9 million, so I hope it stays that way after we do it.
So do we.
So I guess, when looking at the pay application, would be our recommendation that we go ahead and approve the pay application for August 1st, 2021. In the amount of $78,220.83.
Is this-
I would second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Is this a copy, John, or is this got to be signed and returned here?
I have them sign all of them. One is Lisa's, and then I usually give the blue one to the sheriff. And then I have one for the board,
Yeah, to review.
that you can keep in your files. I usually just have. sign them all, and then
Just so I
the-
understand, John, make sure we get off on the right foot. You need 3 checks for the 78,000. One to Chosen Valley, one to Rick, one to you.
That's correct.
Okay.
Each, and then as we get contractors, each one
Yep.
would go to individual contractor.
Yep.
And do you want your copy, would you like them electronically too?
Oh, you know what, that would be fine also, if you can do that.
Yeah,
Because what we'll do is this will get attached to the claims. So
Yeah.
Shelley has,
do you want them stapled?
Hmm?
I
We
don't
did
have
vote
staple,
on that,
no.
correct? Yeah.
I'll put paper clips, because then you can take it apart easier.
Yep. Yep.
Because they get rather thick when you get all the contractors.
Yeah,
on.
no,
When we get going, they'll be.
yeah, no, that's fine. We're okay with not stapling and just paper clip them or binder clip or whatever. We're okay. with that.
Sign that one, that's your.
But, and you get the electronic copy, you scan the bills too, don't you?
Yeah, I scan all the
Yeah,
invoices.
no, that's great.
So the project recap becomes separate from the invoices, or I can put them together.
We won't pay now for another 2 weeks, so just so you know. I know.
We're gonna have beans for this week, yes.
All right, let's all have your pockets out.
No,
Just, yeah, because we paid today, we'll pay.
That's our.
Oh, yeah.
copy, so-
Actually,
That's-
more than 2 weeks, it'll be Friday after the 2 weeks.
that doesn't
We
matter.
approve,
suppose
we'll
Luann
approve on
needs
the
to start a
17th, we pay on the 20th. That's-
Folder,
Is
that's
that-
our copy.
This is our copy.
Yeah,
And do we have a main folder then for that?
Yeah,
I don't know if you do.
Okay.
we will have,
Yes.
Luann will get one.
yeah, no,
Now we
I
know where it all
copy you on that,
stops.
that
Yeah,
way,
exactly.
that works
Here.
convenient.
We're all gonna-
And I'll paper clip yours together.
Okay.
That way you can pull them apart
Yep.
and put the claims with them.
Yep, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Anything else for me or?
I don't think at this time.
Okay, well then I'll probably run out to site. You want to go out to site with us or?
Sure.
And then
So
we'll
are-
come-
Have you talked to Together We Build lately?
yes.
Good.
Dean, yeah,
I know at our last meeting, they were hoping to get in touch with you.
yeah, I talked to Dean and I talked to, is it Lori Fay with Waddle?
Waddy.
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 Yeah, and she's saving us some of the rebar and stuff, so yeah,
Yeah, Lori Fi.
yep.
Okay,
If I can have a couple of them sent plans back from America, you can keep one for yourself. Got to roll up one sometime really fast.
You got one.
I don't have. one.
You can have that. I wrote out 14 foot sidewalls. Is that okay?
Oh, no, that's fine. You need an extra copy?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just thought, you said you wanted it back.
Oh, no, I don't necessarily. I left one with
Jack.
Jack, if that works. And then Rick can have one to mark up and one for maybe the city if I run over there, so. Okay, and then we'll be back. Can we use the conference room downstairs for?
You can check and see if it's available, but I don't know why not. If not, there's other rooms available.
Yeah, I just know it doesn't work with a darn over at the sheriff's office,
Yeah.
because you got laid across 3 computers and.
Yeah. There's a room available.
Put you in the courtroom or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I bet you will.
Lay on the floor together.
Well, I can say even the magistrate courtroom. if they want to.
Yep.
There's a place.
No,
Or
no.
there's a
Yeah, community
15-foot one.
extensions.
Or we could do that.
The community room was tied up all week because of extensions and not the fair.
How about the conference room?
Becky says she's got it from 12:30 to 3:30 today. The rest of the week is clear.
Then I would say I'd go to the magistrate courtroom. That's a nice table. Everybody
Yeah.
hands out, that'll work.
Okay.
Times you plan on meeting you down there.
11:45. So I'll text him.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to meet now or before then, or I'll go there first.
I just
He
figured.
probably figured you need to take another spin around the race.
Yeah. I would
You
enjoy
get
that.
bumped around a little bit, you know, we hold your own out there.
Hey, I won the flagpole race. First time out, I win it. Get her done.
You can have the cemetery, Pioneer Cemetery ones come in.
Okay, that's what I was going to do.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.
That's fine.
I mean, last month.
Hello.
No, I,
No, I-
yeah, we had it.
It was in a large conference room.
That's right.
Oh, okay. Hi, Brent.
Yep. See you guys.
Thank you.
Well, Joanne got a haircut.
Morning. How are you? How are you? Good.
Sarah, are you taking notes on the changes we have to make, or do I need to do that?
I sure am.
Okay.
This time we're joined by Joanne Gavin and Wayne Edwards and Sarah Davenport from the Pioneer Cemetery Commission to discuss burial forms.
We're moving ahead with having burials in the Pioneer cemeteries. We've been struggling with this for years, long before I was even on the commission. So we feel that it is time. We have requests. And so we are moving ahead with coming up with what we think will work as far as burials in the Pioneer cemeteries. We started out by, of course, approving it at our board meeting, and then we changed the rules and regulations. The rules and regulations said that we couldn't have burials, and now we've changed that to show that we can have burials. We also changed one thing with the Pioneer Cemetery in the fact that we said that if we should happen to exceed in the next 50 years, because the burials can only be, they talk about a 50-year time limit, you can only have 12 in that 50-year time limit. And it then is no longer a Pioneer Cemetery, and we changed the rules to say that even though it may not be a Pioneer Cemetery, we're keeping it under the auspices of the Pioneer Cemetery Commission. So once a Pioneer Cemetery, always a Pioneer Cemetery, is how we're putting it, yeah.
Are you limiting your burials yet then? No?
No. We are limiting the burials because they have to be approved. They have to meet our criteria. And our criteria is that you just don't come from Davenport and come up and be buried in a Pioneer Cemetery. You have to have some association, either other family, farms nearby, that type of criteria. So we are limiting it. But we're not saying that in the next 50 years, there couldn't be 12 in a cemetery.
We're not limiting numbers, we're limiting by space.
Yeah,
Some have lots of space.
And so each burial, we changed our rules to say that each burial has to have written permission. They have to, and so we had to come up with a form for that. And so we have an application. They have to buy a lot. And that's what we're here today for, particularly, is to come up with a price. Because Sarah thought that you should be involved in making the price. We also said that they have to be dug by our contractors. They have to have a gravestone. We do allow burial of ashes, not just bodies. Isn't that awful to say? And we are granting permission to owners of lots that own the lots now. So we are grandfathering those in so that they can bury if they already own a lot and have a deed.
So could they sell that to somebody else?
Transfer.
Now that one, we're not saying anything on those,
Okay.
but the ones that we give permission, we're saying they cannot. That was one of Sarah's suggestions, is that we limit that, and we agreed, just hadn't thought of it, but we are limiting the lots that we come up with, that we approve to be sold. And then they have to contact us in order, when they are ready for a burial, and we then give them permission for the burial. We have the application. Now, the application is covering more than just burials, because I want to put up a stone for one of my husband's ancestors. There's no stone, and I want to put up a stone, so and I have to get permission to do that. So that's part of the application process. So it's more than just burials that is included in the application itself. Then we have the application that explains their relationship to the lot, so that we have something to go on, so that we know whether we're, approving or disapproving something logically. Then we have the deed or the certificate of internment. And then we have a letter of approval. So for my headstone, I would get a letter of approval. So we have all of those forms ready to go. Sarah has looked at them. We do need to come up with a price. We need also, we have requests, and Joe has a list of the requests.
We have lots requested in 8 different cemeteries, and you've heard us talk about that before.
Mhm.
Some are large and have lots of empty spaces, and some are very, very limited. Some are very, very hard to get to, and maybe we will never have very many burials there. But it's Sade, Canada Hollow, East Union Center, Goddard, Real, Reed, Lambertson, and Sweezy. And Sweezy, we've got probably an acre there that we feel is vacant.
So I'm not familiar with the price of.
Well,
No.
we've done some checking. Now, of course, we don't have perpetual care, and that's listed again and again. Now, Mount Hope, they do have perpetual care. They charge $750. Reeseville, which is a small little country cemetery, not part of our group, but they charge $300 for a lot. Hazen, no perpetual care, they charge $100. It's a little country cemetery. Harmony at Zwingle and Dubuque, they have a church on their property, and the church is closed, but they charge $800 for a lot with no perpetual care. And I assume that's to help keep the church up. The church building is a beautifully well cared for building. At Iron Hill, the last I heard, they charge $300, and they do have perpetual care. So we have talked about it for a few years, and the commission feels that maybe $250 or $300 would be about right for
So what's perpetual care all include,
the maintenance of the cemetery. It would be the
which we
mowing,
do now, ain't it?
pardon me.
Which we do.
Pioneer cemeteries are being mowed, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but we don't guarantee perpetual care.
Okay, I wouldn't guarantee it, but it is being done.
Well, yeah, but we do not guarantee, when you buy a lot in any of these that have perpetual care, it states that you do have perpetual care, which we don't have, of course.
I guess 300 sounds reasonable to me. I don't know what's your standard cemetery is like, what does Makoka or Bellevue or
Well, Mount Hope, she said was
800, I think.
750.
For sure.
750.
There's, I mean, a lot of them are being limited to ashes now, or they have a vault system because they're running out, basically running out of room.
Well, what is the size of the lot?
These prices, like,
No, the.
What's the size?
Actual dimensions, it's like
Oh.
6 foot wide or 8 or 10 foot long or.
4 by 10 or 12.
Okay.
And they're, it's 4, and the next one is within inches. But of course, with ashes, that's not as much of a concern, but
So if you had a couple that wanted to buy one lot with cremation in mind, can that be done? Can you put 2 on the same lot? Okay.
one headstone,
Well, that's-
but you can have
multiple
2, I believe
areas.
it's limited to 2, isn't it?
I'd have to read, I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's a typical wording.
So do you have copy of the list of criteria or forms that you're speaking of, or because there's nothing for?
Some of them are in our book.
Okay.
I didn't bring, I have copies, but I didn't bring copies for everybody because I thought that had happened earlier.
Well, I have the certificate of interment right for, and then the blank. And then there is the letter of permission, and there is the Jackson County Pioneer Cemetery Commission application
Yeah.
is in our.
That, okay. Mhm. And that's the forms themselves that we've come up with. I do also have rules and regulations, if you would like to read those, that have been revised with all of the new information.
So I know one time we talked about having GIS map these
Yeah.
cemeteries and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that still on? I mean, we switched, we have a new person now.
Yes.
I don't know if she's been told about that or.
She has been told, and I don't know if Joanne talked to her yet.
I have
Christina
talked
knows,
with
yeah.
Christina, yeah, and she wasn't available today, but she has offered to help us.
She's on vacation this week.
Yeah.
I think she's
Yeah.
quite busy though, too.
And there's a question on the gizmo, so.
That's me,
operation of
Lisa.
it.
Nobody is around that, when it was originally purchased, no one is around since then. So it's gonna require, and the owner's manual has yet to be located. So I believe there was some discussion of potentially looking at a YouTube or trying to download a owner's manual to figure out how to get it going again.
Really?
So do we officially need to take action on what we recommend for a lot's per sale price? Or just tell them what we think?
I think the board should take action.
There's nothing on our agenda for action though. Just discussion.
Well, we'll tell you it's gonna be $300 if we don't take action next week.
Okay.
To set that price
Okay.
on the
Okay.
fee for the lot.
$300, okay, and they'll be the same on any of our restored
Mhm.
pioneer cemeteries, okay.
Mhm.
Then who is going to keep track of the records, the sales of the lots and all that kind of thing?
It'll probably end up in the auditor's office.
The problem is, as we change, I think we need
A permanent home.
yes. And that's, because we can start, we're gonna make copies of everything and put them in a book, but still, someday we won't be around.
And that's kind of happened at the county farm. I mean, I'm sure there was a book somewhere, but
Yeah.
it's not to be found anywhere.
Nope, we haven't located that yet. We've tried various different avenues. We haven't been able to locate it yet.
So that's why we really need a place.
I mean, one thing with GIS, putting it electronically, that's good, because that's the second record. But yeah, we should have a space for it somewhere.
We'll come up with a space.
Well, yeah, I have a lot of stuff at home. And part of it's in my basement, part of it's in the dining room, part of it's in the living room. part of it's in the bedroom. And
Well, just when you don't need your house anymore, just leave it to us. And we'll store everything there.
and I ran out of file space, so I'm in cardboard boxes. So my goal is by spring of 2022 to have that out of my house.
Okay.
So you're
And-
looking for a place to store all those
Yeah.
records is what you're asking.
Yeah.
So basically, I mean, you're gonna have the records when they apply, you have the forms, it's gonna be all paper, right? Paper files. So we need file cabinets that we may have and we may have a space.
Yes.
If it
Yes.
comes to us in a file form that we can just,
Put in a file cabinet.
Yeah.
We,
Files and put in the file.
we'll have the file cabinets.
We can probably take care of that. It just is gonna push us to do some cleaning.
which we need to do anyway. So
Yes.
We are like everybody else, just as you said in your house. We are full of paper. This building is full of paper.
And short staff.
And it's and just as you know, it's very time consuming,
Yeah.
Yeah, so we deal with that a lot.
I intend to go through things this winter and sort out what should be kept and
Well, our health department did Kimberly, she did digitize some records, so we probably can honor your request. I would say that that's workable. Yeah. Just give us
So
a
do you
heads
have
up.
the availability to scan some of these records and have a file rather than all paper?
Yes. And currently, that's what we're doing now. So as an example, let's take this packet. This is called a board packet. When I get done with my minutes and I give it to Danielle in the office, she does scan all of that. And that has reduced our paper load. All of the claims that we pay, all of the invoices, we do scan that. And it's easier and faster for us to get rid of.
Would it be possible to scan some of these records then?
Maybe.
Okay. Let's keep it in
Time and
mind.
personnel
That's what I'm gonna say, because
Yeah.
that's what, I mean, I'm more than willing to help out. I need to know what the time commitment's gonna be, and I need to look at your paperwork to see how good it's gonna scan.
Yeah. And I agree with that, or one of us can scan. I can scan.
That probably wouldn't work for our system because it's someone sitting at a desk, at a computer, next to a scanner. And then they scan it all through and then they go back and they recheck it to make sure that it's scanned correctly.
Okay.
Would you agree?
now we have many photo albums, one or maybe even more than one for each cemetery. Before pictures, after pictures, and during the work days. Can you keep the photo albums?
Here's what I'm going to suggest is let's get together and sit down and talk about this.
Okay.
Danielle and Mary are the people in our office, in the auditor's office that do the scanning. Of course, we have Shelley that does the money side, the budget side of this. And so I think what we need to do is maybe just let's sit down, come in sometime, not in the month of August, sometime after August. This is a bad month. And then we can sit down, we can talk about it, and that maybe will help you kind of put things in order and yeah, I think we can talk about it. Yep,
Thank you, Lisa.
we're pretty flexible.
Cool.
Yep.
So you're in agreement for us to proceed?
Yep, yeah.
Okay,
We'll officially take action
I
next
mean,
week.
I don't know if we ever finished the fees or what was being paid by the county for the burials. I don't think we changed that, correct? We did not change that.
Well, that's the other question too, is once, you did say you had 8 people and if there's $300 and
Well,
so where is your $2,400 going?
Oh, the funds. It's not 8 people, it's burials. One I'm thinking of, there would be 3 in one cemetery. There's 8 cemeteries that have requests. And I can't
So,
say
oh,
how
I
many people.
probably
But-
misunderstood, but anyway, let's just say you have $3,000.
Yeah.
Where do you want that $3,000 to go? Or where is it going?
I think,
we had it in the rules and regulations to go back in to our account.
Okay.
I
But
think
that does, if that's not agreeable, we certainly.
Well, she just needs to know
I just
for
think
the
we need to
record
sit
keeping.
down. Yeah, we need to sit down and when we have our little discussion, we'll sit down and we'll talk to Shelley about it and we'll get it all figured out. I was just curious. Yeah, we're easy to get along with.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you've been helpful over the years. like-
Be
I appreciate
careful
that. Thank
on
you.
your way out. There's a lot of law enforcement out
I
there.
see that.
Well, at least they're not out on the road, so they won't stop you for speeding.
Drive like you stole
Did
it.
you have anything else? Okay,
I think that's it.
all right.
Okay, thank
Thanks so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't want to take up any more time. That's okay.
This time we're gonna recess for a minute.
Come on.
In the meeting. Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
I think are we finished with our meeting and we're in the work session then? Is that the case, Jack?
We are having an update on the radio systems. I don't know if the public would be interested in hearing that or not.
Might as well. No, that doesn't matter, that's what.
I guess,
Educational.
I guess I would just leave it open. and Have it recorded so that people can see what's going on, so they.
Welcome,
understand
gentlemen.
it. Hello.
Good morning. Well, we got some new faces in the crowd here, so I'll introduce myself. Lynn Binger, Jackson County Emergency Management. I sit on the 911 board.
Brian Flynn with Motorola Solutions, direct area sales manager here at the Des Moines office.
Sheriff
Brad Cran.
I'm Brad Cran.
Brent and Bob Lane.
And they're all on the 911 board.
And Jack's the chairman of the 911, or of the supervisors, Mike Stein's chairman of the 911 board, and Larry McDavis is on the supervisor's board.
And you've been in the 911 board meetings about a year ago when we talked about more of an all-encompassing countywide
Been to all of
system.
them, I believe.
Yep. And I think you were at one 911 board meeting here in this room. Last month.
Which that being said, I've been at all of them, still very confusing to me.
So with that, we're gonna give you a presentation from the get-go, and we'll go from there. So. You can click it, Bjorn. So basically, Jackson County 911 Service Board was established back somewhere in the late 89, 90s era per Iowa code. You can click it. Just keep, the past, established in 1992 present, where we're at in 2021, and the future, where we're going to look at going beyond. So you can click. So we're governed under the 911 board, or excuse me, under Iowa Administrative Code. With that, it was formed back in the late 80s. Since then, the legislation really got involved in, and any taxing body in the county has a seat on this board. And then they added emergency management here about 4 years ago. And so with that, every city's involved, the hospital is involved, they have a seat on the board. So with that, so our current system, designed by electronic engineer from Clinton, Iowa, back in 1992. This system it's currently a system known as a repeater system. It was implemented in January 1st, I think 1992 was our first call.
911 call. We were established, I think, back in there. We currently operate on 3 frequencies that the city or the county owns. One is Jackson County Ops. It's basically that's what our law enforcement is on, our Jackson County Sheriff, and our 4 police departments sit on that. And we have 6 towers out there that they can, talk on. Those are independent towers. Jackson County Fire, I think we got about 8 or 9 fire departments. We have 8 towers out there. And back in 2007, 8 with some of our funds through Homeland Security, we started to develop an emergency management frequency. So we had a secondary frequency that fire and law enforcement could go on to if our other frequencies are tied up. So we have 4 towers out there. And our dispatch also monitors additional state, federal frequencies, which would be like fire, law, aid, mutual aid, and then the hospital frequency, which is,
Okay, so are these
nationwide.
towers all physically in Jackson County? or-
Yeah, yes, I got a picture of the emergency management, Jackson County Fire, and Jackson and law enforcement towers. You'll see here at the end of the presentation. So go ahead. So basically, the past or present, over the last 3 to 4 years, we conducted a radio study. We hired Mike Day with True North. They independent third-party contractor come in. He looked at our current system. He looked at the Sarah system. He looked at the ISIC system, and pretty much talked to all of the law enforcement, all the fire departments, and seen what their needs were.
Maybe explain what frequency we're on. We're on VHF.
Yeah.
So this is,
So VHF is a very high frequency. That's what it's called. So,
it's not digital like most.
Explain it like we're on analog, like years ago when cell phones come out, then they went digital. Well, everything's kind of going digital right now with radios. So why did we hire them? We wanted to see the efficiency of our current system. Back in 2010, they did narrow banding. So the best way to explain it is, let's take a 4-lane road, and what the federal government done, they put it down to 2 lanes. Now we're operating in them 2 lanes of traffic. Is still congested, but our radio frequency doesn't go that far. It really minimized our coverage, and we have some, coverage problems, and that's why we kind of added several towers since then. As you know, technology changed over the last 30 years. I think Jack, you said on the board when initiated, Mike's been here. You look at what we did 30 years ago sitting in the supervisor's office.
Yep.
We look what we carried 30 years ago as a radio. Things changed, technology changed. We did talk to the end user, as I stated, the fire departments, the police departments, and what their needs were. And once again, we talked about interoperability. It starts local, state, and federal levels. And if you look around, Clinton, they're going to the ISIC system. Jones County is going P25, and now we have Dubuque County, which is on a SARE system, which is a shared area radio agreement, which they own their own system, and they got to team up with other communities that have the same frequency, same system, and they can bounce off their tower. So if their site goes down, they would have like maybe Black Hawk or Johnson County or Scott County to back them up as a dispatch. So their radio systems. And you'll see how that works later on in Brian's presentation. So with that, here's our current fire repeaters. St. Donatus, Bellevue, Leisure Lake, Andrew, Baldwin, Makoka, Preston, Sabila. Miles, that black one, they have limited coverage. So what happens is when they page out Preston off the Preston Tower, when that tones get done, it repeats over into Miles. So it's kind of a Jimmy rig system, more or less, so we can get the frequency out there. Here's our law enforcement, Leisure Lake, Bellevue, Sabila, Preston, Makoka, and Baldwin. And there's our EMA repeaters, St. Ada's, Bellevue, Makoka, and Preston. So with that, basically, when our officers or fire departments go to different jurisdictions and they cannot touch that or reach that repeater in Bellevue, they physically got to take their radio, turn it to maybe to Makoka now. So they're always changing frequencies. In car, they got to do some of the same things to do that. So if they're going down the road and they're going into Sevilla, they may not hit the Bellevue repeater, if they may be on the Makoka repeater. Technology has changed dramatically. So with that, Brad, Bob, you guys got anything to add or?
Well, we've all, 911 board has basically took an approach with looking at that huge number that Brian presented a year ago, which was within the $9-10 million range. And that's adding towers throughout the county, bringing in, repeaters along with that. And we looked at that and said, whoa. So then we're looking at the biggest problem we have right now is officer safety and law enforcement. Plain and simple. We work with Clinton County, we work with Dubuque County, Jones County. We can't talk to them. State Patrol, we can't talk to them on our radios, period. They do, dispatch can, if we have a chase or something with multiple agencies, they can patch some of it, but that's only good as long as your radio is good. So we can outrun our radio system. And then we have nothing. The mutual aid that we used to have, the LEA frequency we used to have, the state has basically stopped using those, and they went to what they call the ISIX program. They're the statewide backbone of interoperability for them. And the state built this thing out to 95% mobile coverage. The lucky thing in our system, or in our area, is they put 3 of their state towers in our county. So looking at that, and when we tested some of these radios, handhelds and stuff throughout the county, we believe that we can go with a mobile radio in our squad and a repeater system in our squad and hit most everywhere in this county with one of those towers. And all you got to do is hit one of those towers to be on that system. And that is for, and we thought, okay, let's migrate. Let's look at law enforcement only for the first step. Looking at changing our consoles to be on that system in our dispatch area. Look at how we connect to the towers with that. And then look at our handheld and our mobile coverage with repeater systems in our car, which we think will probably work throughout our county. And then let's say we figure out that works. We've got great, the coverage we want with that. And then we start migrating fire into that. Parks, conservation, street departments, electric companies, we're all on this system so we can all talk to each other. The DOT's on this system, that we can talk to the DOT drivers, the snow truck drivers, that kind of stuff, plow trucks. So we decided in 911 to start going forward with looking at migrating just law enforcement in our county for now, mainly because we do have a need with the officer safety stuff. The radios we have now, we're losing coverage because of narrow banding, like Lynn said. We are looking at that worsening throughout the time of narrow banding also. And that's a concern of mine, because we've got people in Sevilla, we've got people in Bellevue, we got people in Preston that can't get a hold of anybody on their hand. And that's a big officer safety issue when they're out doing something. Counties having the same problem. So we got to do something. This is what we're looking at. because of this system having 3 of their towers. Putting a tower up is expensive. They have 3 towers in Jackson County. If we can get away with doing in-car repeaters for, basically what that means, let me explain that. So you have a mobile computer or a mobile radio in your squad car, which is that bigger thing. And then you have a repeater in that car. So when you get out of your squad car, you're on your handheld, it automatically switches to the repeater. You're 70 yards away from your squad car and you need help, that handheld will go to that repeater and then use the mobile, which is, we know is 95% accurate, basically. Every time, 95% of the time you push the button to be on that tower. In Iowa, you'll hit a tower 95% of the time. That's what that means. So we're thinking, okay, so the handheld goes to that, and then we're on that system and we're talking on radio. So that's the law enforcement part of it, or concerns about it. You have anything to add, Bob?
Not really. Officer safety is a big thing. The Sheriff's Department's never really had adequate handheld coverage out in the county. It gets too far away from repeaters. The in-car repeater system would be a cheap way to increase that so that they can stay in contact at all times.
Yeah, I can talk about a recent example. So because I became sheriff, we had the incident in Clinton County, which was just south of our border, where Sergeant Rayhans got shot at that trailer that day. So myself, Assistant Chief Zyment, and we responded. We linked up with Sergeant Kyle from the DNR, and then the DOT showed up. And so we got 4 law enforcement agencies. We're hiding to the north, on the north side of the ridge with a view on the property. We not only can't talk to each other, we can't talk to the Clinton County and the State Patrol, who's on the south side with the view. And then it's also a community safety issue too, because let's say Alyssa's the lady in the trailer who has called 911 and is trying to tell us not only what's happened with the officer, but what's going on with the guy and where he's at. She's talking to Bob at dispatch, but if Bob can't tell us, and if the patch system does not work very well, I mean, it was kind of a pie in the sky kind of hope thing. So he can't even relay to us what the lady inside is trying to tell us, or to, where to stay away from, or where to take cover, or what he's doing next. I mean, we're all running in the dark out there and not even being able to communicate with each other, like we can in this room. So we don't know what the right hand, don't know what the left hand's doing, and it becomes a safety issue for the officers, for the public, the community, everybody. And yeah, these towers, typically, I'd say most times I go to upgrade a radio system, they're probably talking at least 9-10 million for that at a minimum. We're very fortunate that we got these 3 State Patrol towers in our area, just there at our convenience, for no other reason than they're already there.
And I think that's what the 911 board's approach was. It's the most budget, or I guess fiscally responsible way of trying to migrate to that system. And I think that's what we're looking at. We realize that big number is big number. And we operate on smaller money than that with 911, as both Jack and Mike know. And we have to try to stay within our means that way, but we also have to do something to help that situation. And I think in doing this in this way, migrating this way, I think is the most financially responsible for our taxpayers, and it does reach every taxpayer in Jackson County.
So do we have a cost on this yet?
Well, so just we're getting to that, but just to add to that, for being on the 911 buffer, we've been kicking this can for what, 5 years?
Well, we kicked it before you got on.
Yeah, before I got it. I've been kicking it 5 years,
Yeah.
but we're fortunate to have the 3 towers because of our topography.
Yeah.
You get down in Sebula, you get up in the hills of St. Donatus. And we're also very fortunate to have a DOT official on the 911 board. So he is on this system and using the ISIC systems, and he's getting on with it very well.
So one thing to add to it, you talk about officer safety and stuff, a lot of that, so we're picking up a lot of skip. DeKalb County, we've hired a guy to come in, or an engineer, to do interference on our radio antennas to see what we're grabbing. And there's so much radio waves out there that it's unreal what he got. So basically, you know, we're getting interference. So when we patch through, that information's going right back to him. And it's just, it's not good. And the other thing is on a repeater system, I've had it happen. So down in Green Island, Bellevue, Miles or Press were working a house fire. So they're on their handhelds talking off the Preston Tower, which is shooting them back towards Makoka. I'm running up to Zwingo on a rollover trauma. I can hear them, but they can't hear me. So when I'm talking, they're talking, and basically we're walking over each other. So with this new system, you key up your whole radio, you're gonna get it in Clinton, Jones, and Jackson County. Because that's how the system's designed, and Brian can go through all
Pull that
that.
other presentation in that folder, please. So yeah, so I have a presentation and a couple of visual maps to kind of help.
With this one, bottom one.
Yeah, yes, sir. The team here has done a really good job of kind of explaining, I mean, why Jackson County, why here today, I mean, with whether you have previous knowledge or not. So I'm gonna try to kind of take it from there in terms of answer any questions you have, present on some things that I know other people have had questions on. So maybe I'll cover some. If I don't, please stop me. And I'll answer the best of my ability, but basically just talk through what the ISIC system is, what it means for Jackson County today, and some of the differences between a year ago when we presented, and then trying to dial that back to be as fiscally responsible as possible while still delivering on some of the officer safety issues and dispatch issues that you've had. So you can go ahead and click through there. Not already. So you're good. So again, just let you know, I mean, I'll go through this, answer any questions you have, but go ahead. So what is ISIC? The ISIC stands for the Iowa Statewide Interoperable Communications System. You've heard some of the reasoning today, I mean, from Lynn and Brad and then Bob and the sheriff. It basically came about that there's, even today, but I mean, rewind 6-7 years ago, that it was being addressed that there's too many disparate radio systems out there, whether it's 800 megahertz or 700 megahertz or VHF digital, VHF analog, and everyone in the country, let alone in Iowa, kind of doing something different, and even border to border, or even internally within a county with different state agencies or local paid or volunteer fire or law enforcement. So the state put out an RFP to build out a mobile radio P25 911 communication system. That's a mouthful. What does that mean? So basically P25 is a standard based system. So it's a set of protocols that every vendor or manufacturer who builds infrastructure for state systems for the 7800 or VHF frequencies, as well as subscriber radios, mobiles or portables, has to hit a minimum number of protocols to be able to just be kind of on a level playing field or consistent. And the Iowa chose mobile coverage statewide as that kind of baseline for interoperability. Motorola was awarded that contract, and we just completed that. And the state and the ISIC board took ownership of that at the end of last year in October and moved into their warranty period. Go ahead, Steve. So the ISIC system is the largest P25 system in Iowa. You heard Lynn, I mean, reference, there is, I mean, another P25 system in Iowa on the 7800 their frequency. It is for statewide interoperability, so it's not really a regional system based in the eastern half or eastern central part of the state. It is statewide. It is made up of 92 sites for the state system, and then there's over 20 plus sites being built out by other counties, either have been built or are in the process of being built to add on to that coverage that the state system has put in. As I said, the state system really has been quote unquote completed. I mean, not even 9 months ago, 10 months ago, there's already 24,000 users on the state system. That's federal, state, and local that have access to be able to utilize the system. Over 120 plus agencies, again, whether that's federal, state DNR, DPS, DOT, and then different counties, law enforcement and fire. The state system itself was built for interoperability as that backbone platform, but it really is a starting point for operability. What does that mean? Interoperability is I need to be able to talk to whomever if we roll upon a scene and be able to communicate to each other. Operability is operational, use day to day. We use it all day, every day. That's the kind of the difference between the two. And as Brad had mentioned, and I've got a map to be able to show, it's really, the state system is built for mobile coverage. Well, what does that mean? Well, this radio is a mobile radio, meaning it's in a squad car, an ambulance, a fire truck, much bigger, able to, be able to, have a stronger signal. So 95% of the state of Iowa geographically was the spec and the RFP to be covered with at 95% reliability. So that wasn't, let's get coverage in Des Moines, let's get coverage in Davenport or Sioux City. It was, the Mississippi to Missouri and Minnesota, to Missouri in terms of borders across, I don't care if it was Adams County, or Polk County or Jackson County, here you go. Create that spec that 95 out of 100 times you're able to communicate back in and out of the system to dispatch. So Motorola, engineers, and as part of our response, came up with that 92 sites that made that. And I can tell you, this is the only county and the only time out of almost 100 of these that I've done that you're the only county that has 3 sites in Iowa. 99 counties, the only one with 3 sites. And there are probably 10 or 12 with 0 sites. So why is that? Well, you've heard some of the things. It really, I'll chalk it up to, your geography and the topography, as well as state-owned land or assets at the time, and just the way that it worked with microwave backhaul, with coverage to be able to hit the spec that we needed to hit. And it's tough, trust me, it's tough being in conversations like this and presentations with, let's say, Union County, 0 ISIC sites. And they end up spending, almost $7 million to put 4 sites in with consoles and radios for everyone in the county. It's a different conversation, than we're, having here today, because there is a substantial amount of coverage already in the county. And hopefully, if you choose to move forward, to be able to show that possibly could be enough. So the time will tell. It is 7,800 frequency. So as you heard, VHF has been around for a long time. Counties just like yourselves have been using it for 30 years. Narrow banding in 2012, almost 10 years ago. Just like, Lynn did a good job. Your coverage very loosely was here and it went to half. That's the FCC. That wasn't the state of Iowa or anything like that. They've already said down the road, there's not have been a date, but they will narrow band again, which will, ultimately end up, making it almost impossible to use VHF analog, moving forward. Not a scare tactic by any means, just letting you know technology and that the roadmap down the road. Just so you know, 7,800 frequency negates you from having to worry about that. The technology in that, no matter what the FCC does with VHF, you're quote unquote future proof on the 7,800 band. It will, though, need to be in the back of your mind if you move the 7,800 in the state system and let's just say over the next few months to a couple of years, that anybody left behind or still operating on a VHF, sounds like potentially fire to some level. Remember that at some point you'll have to look at transitioning them off of that onto the state system as well. So just for consistency and just the availability of the technology. State system is upgraded from a firmware and software every 2 years to kind of give it and keep it up to date. So it wasn't a one-time purchase and okay, good to go, hope it works forever. There was a 10-year after, so it's at the end of last year in October, for 10 years, basically at about a 2-year cadence, every site and core and console that's connected to the system, whether it's a state or county owned, will be upgraded so that at the end of that 10-year window from last October, you'd quote unquote have the latest and greatest software at that time. So let's just say when I say there's some hardware in that as well, just so you know, because let's just kind of like the example, if you have a Windows computer and you need to upgrade to the latest and greatest Windows, well, if the computer itself is so old, it doesn't allow for that software. In this analogy, we would replace that computer or software within those sites. So go ahead and go to the next slide, sir. The backbone or the servers, the cores that they're called, I mean, are there's 3 of them in Iowa. So this is the only state system that I know of in the country that has 3. There might be 1 or 2, but I've been told it's very rare to have 3 geo-redundant cores. So there's one in the central Iowa area in Johnson at the JFHQ headquarters. There's one over in the Cedar Rapids area and up in the Storm Lake northwest area. So this is basically really is the brains of the operations in terms of that makes it run. And whether it's flooding, derecho, whatever, tornado, I mean, there's 3 of them. They're all on hot standby, so you'll never know a difference of if one went down, the other keeps it going to keep things moving seamlessly. And they are all connected by microwave backhaul, which is 99.9999% reliable, and what helped keep the system up and running during the derecho exactly a year ago. So go ahead. So again, just kind of talking about that reliability, what this, as part of the ISIC system overall, those 92 sites, about 80 of them are actually putting out RF signal or putting out coverage. All 3 of the Jackson County sites are. There's about 10 more that are just microwave only that are basically bringing all of those connected to the ISIC cores. Every site has a generator, has backup propane, and has a climate controlled shelter to be able to make sure that they are mission critical. That, I mean, this isn't, I mean, a local commercial cell phone carrier that might have their stuff outside. I mean, this is fenced, protected, climate controlled with backup availability. So go ahead. So here's a pretty busy map that kind of shows the state system overall and a kind of snapshot in time. I'll kind of split this up for you. The different zones here are the Homeland Security regions with throughout Iowa. As you can see, Jackson County is in Region 6. So there are statewide talk groups, and there are regional talk groups, and those are channels basically on the radio that you're able to communicate within the state if needed, if you're traveling out of the area, or a region if needed, or you can create your own and have your own for, I mean, law enforcement for Jackson County or fire for Jackson County or whatever moving forward. All of these little blue dots and some of the red triangles, those are those 92 sites throughout the entire state of Iowa that make up the state ISIC system, that mobile backbone coverage for interoperability. And then all of these lines are that microwave backhaul that connects them all not only to each other, but back to the 3 geo-redundant cores, the brains or servers of them. As you can see, you've got the 3 sites here in Jackson, and you've got 1 or 2 more up in Dubuque, and then 1 down in Clinton. And then eventually, you'll also have an additional one that Clinton is putting in the city of Clinton, there on the community college tower as well. As long as you play nice with your neighbors and have an MOA or MOU, we've had no issues with people utilizing the infrastructure from county to county because it really benefits everyone involved, but that's up to you and them. And then these additional dots or stars, I guess I should say, are showing you some more of those, what we call a system enhancement or add-ons, which is basically the county or agency adding infrastructure, adding equipment to increase the coverage in their area. So just going back to my use case earlier, Union County, no circle or red triangle. So they added 4 sites. They did that because they had mobile coverage in the county, but that only got them quote unquote interoperability. They needed portable on hip coverage outside of a vehicle or within a building. So through a similar process that we've done here over the last couple of years with coverage maps and equipment lists and proposals, they moved forward with adding those 4 sites. So you can just see here, Chickasaw, in terms of close to you, Chickasaw is adding 3 sites because the one they had was microwave only. It was not adding infrastructure. And then, like I said, close to you, Clinton's adding 1. and a lot of it's in, I mean, central, southeast. Lee County recently is adding 3. They're in the middle of their build out. And we've got talks and proposals out to other counties that are doing. I hope this just kind of shows that there's no cookie cutter way. Everyone is different. Everyone's starting from a different baseline, even though the ISIC system is here for mobile coverage. That doesn't mean your portable on-street or portable in-building coverage is the same for a county with no ISIC sites versus a county that has 3. So I mean, people start at different levels. Topography and geography is different. I mean, the needs are different if you're on the Mississippi River versus if you're in a low flat area in south central Iowa as well. Any questions on this that this brings up or? All right. Thanks. So this is the resulting mobile coverage throughout the state of Iowa from the 92 sites for the ISIC system. So what are we looking at here? So again, this is mobile coverage in a vehicle wide. Green is 95%. So 95 out of 100 times I'm in my vehicle keying up. That's what you're getting in and out. And it's covering in all over the state. It's like we actually drove tested all, I mean, as part of the process, and it ended up being like 98% of the state of Iowa. Well, these wide areas, what does that mean? It's not like a cell phone where you just drop, oh my gosh, I'm out of coverage. White areas mean it's less than 95%. So it could be 94 out of 100 times it could work. It could be 50. It could be 0, depending on if you're at a river bottom or over on the other side of a bluff or something like that. So it doesn't mean the wide area means no coverage. Just real quick, just an example. This is what an ISIC tower looks like. This happens to be the one just on the west side of Carroll in Carroll County. So basically 300 to 400, I mean, plus feet tower. This happens to be a self-supporting tower versus a guide tower. You've got the fencing, security fencing, the gravel, I mean, road, I mean, for egress there, climate controlled shelter, generator, and propane backup. These kind of tall, skinny little lines, those are the RF, I mean, antennas putting out that coverage. And I just like this for a visual. This is kind of, I mean, high level non-engineer. These are the microwave dishes. So that kind of the send and receive on that map you saw earlier where it's going to the other sites. Just visually trying to give you an idea of what an ISIC site kind of looks like throughout the state, and or what other sites look like if counties were to add infrastructure or towers. So kind of, I mean, part of the crux of this, I mean, information sharing and some of the decisions that you potentially have moving forward is the cost benefit of using ISICs. Lynn had talked about how you guys went and got a radio consultant that really evaluated what was here in the county. And it was, well, you can continue to kind of band-aid and build out your VHF system. It was, you can go on the 800 megahertz SARA system, the regional system, or you can go on the statewide ISICs system. And the recommendation was go on the statewide ISIC system because it does future-proof you. I mean, with the 700-800 megahertz on a trunked network. And it also, you also have 3 of them, 3 of the sites already in the county and a couple scattered around you, and the cores are already built out. So the state pays for all of that. I mean, Jackson County doesn't pay for any of those 3 sites. You don't pay for the warranty on those 3 sites. You don't pay for the cores or anything like that. It's here. So, I mean, some of the maps I'm going to show you for Jackson County specific, I mean, what you need to access that, you've got a control station similar to this in the back room now at dispatch, but you're hearing some of the issues with patching. That really is kind of step 1. Every PSAP in the state has that, by the way, to varying levels. That was done by a Homeland Security grant to provide a control station because Leo was being retired, I think in October of last year. But real world examples, you're hearing and seeing that really doesn't work day to day. I mean, when you have incidents that have multi-jurisdictions of different agencies. So moving off of that is then investing in your own dispatch consoles to have that connectivity straight to the core, and then having radios with the technology in them to access, which is what you don't have today with the older VHF only radios. kind of outline some of this. Essex, I mean, pays, maintains the sites, the cores, any state agency, I mean, departments, I mean, the departments, every state agency is a user on the system. So I mean, people call the state or Essex, they're really, the Essex board is made up of, I believe it's like 17 members, and over half of them are local and throughout the state of Iowa. So that's an EMA person or a 911 person or a Rule of Fire representative. Less than half of that board, I mean, actually is from actual state agencies. So each agency is actually a user of the system itself. They pay for the microwave connectivity, the Essex contract does, as well as that hardware and software upgrade schedule I talked about. What would a county pay for? So today, moving forward, if you were to move forward with the recommendation here, it would be, you would pay for and maintain any subscriber radios, which is a portable, like I'm holding up here, or a mobile, or the vehicular repeaters, or any of the dispatch consoles. And then if you're a different county, or maybe Jackson County down the road, if you were to add any local enhancements or any sites similar to like what Clinton's doing in the city of Clinton, you would pay, you would maintain that. Go ahead, keep going. So really, this is just, I mean, trying to show you, I think you've heard of some of this. You think of, I mean, the Essex system, and you keep hearing, I mean, public safety or first responders. Basically, that is the typical, what you think of, I mean, the law enforcement, fire, EMS, but other agencies and departments can use the state 700 system. 7-800 is, from a technology standpoint, talked about interchangeably, but 700, which is the state system, really is, it is public safety only. I mean, commercial people can't use that, they can't add on to it. So when Lynn was talking about SCIP, that's the VHF system right now, and more commercial entities are adding things onto VHF, which is creating noise and frequency issues and SCIP, I mean, on that. And then, but 700 does not allow you to do that. But some of the agencies to be able to utilize it, schools. We have schools that are, you kind of see it here, kind of a mobile radio with a big orange button that are putting these on the table in an administration office, kind of as a school, I mean, safety response radio. If a school shooter or something were to happen, and especially at a high school level, all the kids are trying to get on their cell phones and jamming up the network. There's someone in an office that could hit that quickly. You can have it programmed to be a live mic. I mean, for 60, 120 seconds, and they can be yelling out or saying, hey, we have a school shooter incident, we're locking down this and this and this. And that can be programmed to go straight back to local law enforcement or the dispatchers or the sheriff's office. So that's just one other use case that can be there. And again, it's basically a mobile radio on a desk with an antenna going outside, utilizing that mobile coverage of the state system today. Secondary roads, engineering offices, I mean, local municipalities, public works, local conservation or DNR, basically any not-for-profit really. That, I mean, think about all of those could be needed or tapped into whether it was a natural disaster or a first response incident. And to be able to really, there's no fees to join Essex. I mean, there's no per radio fee. There's other state systems that Motorola, I mean, has built out, but that's the funding structure they came up with. Essex has never been funded that way, and it will never be funded that way. I'm being told it is. I mean, it's done by basically it's here, use it, and all you have to do is buy a radio with the technology in it, which is the P25 TDMA phase 2. It's really the technology to be able to access it. Go ahead. So really, I mean, the integration proposal looks a lot different today than it did a year ago, as Mike referenced, and several people have referenced. Through that consultant study and through 911 board meetings, it was, okay, well, let's utilize those 3 sites that are there, and what else on paper is needed to fill in the holes, View, I mean, different areas, and then radios for everybody and dispatch consoles. And the number got up there pretty quickly. I mean, it was $8, $9, $10 million when you're talking about maintenance contracts and things like that. And now you're getting into the range. I think Dubuque spent $10-12 million to add like 9 sites when they went on the Sarah system. Like I said, Union County had 4 sites and it was $5 to $7 million for the initial and then maintenance contracts. So now it's dialed back and say we've tested radios here. Let's let's try to do something digestible and try to be more fiscally responsible, at least to see, maybe we don't need to go all out. So this is 2 dispatch consoles at dispatch that will be core connected straight to the E6 cores, so that you're gonna have a lot more usability from a dispatcher level, which then goes out to first responders. What do you mean by that, Brian? Well, now you're not gonna have to patch as much, because you're gonna be able to have as many talk groups and channels as you want. And you can make them on the fly. Whereas right now, if you want to have a channel for patching, you've got one console kind of mobile radio here to be able to patch to. If you want another channel, well, then you got to go out, purchase another radio, program it, install it. It becomes cumbersome over time versus a core connected console. You can just drag and drop dispatcher, can add a talk group and boom and go. So there's still going to be some patching, because you're not talking about the entire county moving off of VHF, but it will minimize it a lot more than what it is today. And then also part of that is that microwave backhaul. So the dispatch is here. My understanding, it's not moving with any, move of the sheriff's department and things like that. And so it would be, putting a 50 or 60 foot monopole pole here to be able to have a microwave dish point to one of the local IS6 sites to have that reliability and connectivity back to the system. And then law enforcement radios, both mobile, portable, and vehicular repeaters as well. That's my understanding. I think the idea was trying to talk to the board about potential funding sources, whether it's ARP or whatnot, for the infrastructure side, so the dispatch consoles and that microwave connection. And I think that, there's some other talks of the actual radios themselves coming from a different funding source. I'll let these guys share some of that. We can go to the next slide. And then now you can go back to that folder. I just want to visually show you what that coverage looks like today, so you can get an idea. Of those 3 sites. If you click on the mobile one in the middle, there you go. There you go. So let me kind of set the stage of what you're looking at here. Obviously, you're looking at the borders of Jackson County. These 3 triangles, those are the 3 IS6 sites that are there currently today. The purple coverage is showing you that mobile round trip coverage. So again, mobile radio in a vehicle, in and out, not just in or not just out. There's different kinds of maps, but this is round trip, which basically means it's worst case, meaning it not only gets out, but also can get back to dispatch from the user in the field. Wide areas does not mean there's no coverage, but we're painting purple where I'm saying with the mobile radio, 95 out of 100 times, you're going to be able to get in and out. So I want to make that clear that the white does not mean there's no coverage. So as we progress to these other maps, this is the coverage that a vehicular repeater would be able to allow you to access. So when Brad was talking about using a vehicular repeater. So I've got this in my dash or in the trunk of my squad car or whatever, and I've got this on my hip. Now, in a vehicular repeater in the back, if I'm getting this mobile coverage while I'm in the vehicle, and then when I get out of my vehicle, and am running, some meth head down in a cornfield or breaking up a bar fight outside in the parking lot or domestic dispute or something, or even going into a building to some level, this is more of the coverage that you'd be able to have as long as you're a certain proximity to that vehicular repeater. I will say, there is a lot of training in user training and people getting used to that. Because vehicular repeaters, when you roll up on a scene, multiple vehicular repeaters together, it can cause some issues if not trained properly or programmed properly. There's a little bit of a learning curve with it, but it can be done to utilize that. So if you go to the one that says PO, that portable on street or POS next. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So this is this is portable on street. So now let's not think about the mobile coverage. Let's not think about being in a car. Now I've got my portable on hip and I'm getting out of the car, but I have not walked into a home or a business or anything like that. This is that 95% in the purple. So again, now you're starting to see, if you're out, can you go back to the other one and kind of toggle back and forth by chance? There you go. So mobile, go to the next one. Portable. So you start seeing more white. Again, white doesn't mean no coverage, it just means not 95 out of 100 times in and out. So we tried to outline some of the city, limits on some of these to be able to kind of show and identify. So a lot of times when a county does go all in operability, you're looking at, the millions of dollars per route. You're trying to fill in some of this portable on-street coverage here and there. If you go to the next one that says 8 dB, please. So this is in-building coverage, and 8 dB, sometimes it's 6 dB, sometimes it's 8, depending on, who's giving the presentation, but this really means residential stick-built structures, residential in-building coverage. So now, I'm not only out of my vehicle with this, now I'm walking in to the house or a stick-built structure. That's what this is showing in the purple, that 95% reliability. Doesn't mean that this area here in the white or up here it doesn't have in-building coverage. It just means I can't tell you it's 95 out of 100 times reliable. This is really where that $8, $9, $10 million number came a year ago, was the idea, okay, well, we need a site here, to be able to, get Sebula, we need a site here to cover this area, we need a site here to cover this area, we need a site here to cover this area, and we need a site here to cover this area to make that more purple for in-building coverage. Again, every county is different on what they want to do and the level they want to go. And then that's just where you're at. I totally understand where you're at. You are in a unique situation where you can transition to the A6 system because of these 3 sites are here at, quote unquote, much less price or cost, but still giving first responders and law enforcement at a minimum the communication technology that they need. We'll go one more to that 15 dB map, please. So this is also in building coverage, but it's more of a school, this type of building, cement, metal. So what you're seeing, I kind of call it the hurricane effect. You start seeing that coverage go closer and closer to each site. So here's the 3 sites. Now you're seeing that other site up in Dubuque. If this map was pulled out, you'll see the DeWitt site in Clinton. Sorry, because I usually do this. If you go mobile, portable, 8 and then 15, it's kind of a stair step from the. So here's mobile coverage, portable on street coverage out of the car, residential in building coverage, and then kind of I'll call it commercial in building coverage. You can kind of see how, as you go more and more, just the coverage gets sucked more into the actual sites around them. So that's just trying to give you a visual representation of what's here today with no additional cost to Jackson County. So now it's, you got to get dispatch console, you got to get them connected to the core so that you have that functionality to access really what is there more easily and frequently day to day, let alone for interoperability. And then from there, it's, different departments or agencies or boards to be able to kind of, how can we get the technology and the radios into users' hands to then access it as much as possible. So. Any questions? That was a mouthful. I apologize. Try to keep it concise, and I have lots of previous questions from that 100 other times I've done this, so I know what to hit on sometimes.
How much money is generated with the surcharge anymore? I know with the cell phones and all of that.
Cell phones are usually bringing in a little over 40 a quarter. And then
Right here.
landline,
$42,000 a quarter.
landlines are way down. I don't know if it's 70 or 80,000 a year maybe.
Yeah, our phone book now is about this thick.
Yeah.
What our main goal today was to get that in your brains a little bit. We're also hoping that you would consider looking at around 700,000 just for the 2 consoles and the microwave tower. Roughly, I think that's our bids. We're under that, but there may be some other incidentals. And we would look at 911 and other entities to look at subscriber radio stuff. That's what we're looking at, is finding money for the infrastructure, what I would call infrastructure stuff, the 2 consoles in the dispatch area and the microwave tower to be able to connect to the system. And then 911 and grants and going to the other consoles throughout the cities and stuff like that. And looking at finding money for every department's radio, the equipment part of it. So that's what we're here to just get that in your brain and maybe have you consider that down the road here. And see if that would be a possibility. Or any part of that.
If you look at the American Rescue Plan, it does meet the criteria. You know, the radio system for that. You know, right now, inoperability is a big thing, you know. Well, I had National Guard bringing in supplies there when first COVID come in. Now I'm running out to our node in Cedar Rapids picking up stuff, you know. Can we talk to the SEAC in Des Moines if need be? If, you know, the duration went on and all the lines are down, cell towers are down, you know, this stood during the duration. You know, we can talk directly to the SEAC and request what we need.
But Brad, you said the $700,000 would be for the radios and the microwave tower.
It'd be the 2 console.
And that would be the consoles also.
The 2 consoles and the tower would be the 700,000.
Okay.
There are for the equipment, the handhelds, the repeaters and the mobiles. I think we are looking at where we were at, Brian, on that. And that's obviously the departments that want to do something different than the state bid Motorola's. They can go look at other.
There's about
other
500,000.
So that's roughly
for law
500.
enforcement radios.
Just
So
for the law enforcement part
so
of
for
Jackson County.
terminology there, Jack, I would strike radios on the 700,000. That's would be dispatch consoles and the microwave backhaul. I mean,
And that's just that connectivity to the towers.
So when we talked previous in a special meeting we had, it was a range of 1.2, 1.3 for the councils and just law enforcement radios.
which is
And repeaters.
And the repeaters in the cars, yes.
So basically, if you break this out, you have dispatch, then when we start talking equipment, we're talking a full-fledged system. You're talking a radio, a repeater, and a handheld radio. So you're set to go. It's a complete system.
with the idea that, let's just say you're starting from here. And that previous, a year ago, number was $9 million to add all these sites, radios for everybody, dispatch consoles. The ask now is, let's try to get, and sorry, this is loose, just let's at least go down that road. Let's utilize the 3 towers that are there, get law enforcement, the radios, get the dispatch consoles upgraded and connected to this, and let's see.
And the microwave tower.
And a microwave tower here, yeah, let's see, and that is that 1.2, so call it 700 for dispatch and microwave and 500 for law enforcement radio, so that's the 1.2. 1.2 sounds a lot better than the 9 million. Now, fast forward 6, 12, 24, 60 months. Okay, we've been using this. How do we get fire on? Where are we maybe seeing that maybe we need 1, 2, 3 sites versus the 5, more than, last year. That's loosely, kind of the idea.
Or it could work for everybody as is.
Absolutely.
Like, that's what our goal is, to see if this repeater system in the car will work throughout Jackson County, and then we migrate fire into that in some way, that kind of thing. And just to let you know too, that the console or the connectivity to the towers, we'd also have a connectivity through the ICN fiber along with that microwave. So there's 2 ways to connect. It's a redundant way. So if something goes down, we got another way to connect to radios. And that's what it's all about, is that for the disasters that happen, we still are up and running with radios and able to communicate. So that's why that microwave towers, a little bit more important than I thought it was going to be at the beginning of all this, is that it's just, Clinton County experienced this here. We thought ICN fiber was bulletproof. Well, they went down twice in what?
They've been
2-week
having a
period.
lot of reliability problems. here in
And
the
that's
last
their
couple of
radios
months.
and phone and 911. You know, 911's on the ICM too right now. And we have a backup through the FirstNet cellular for our 911, so we're lucky that way that we went with the state system on that. So that redundancy is very important.
So do we have a number for everything that you've mentioned? For all the.
Was that the
different
1.2 million, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was just for law enforcement.
That's
Yeah.
just,
Yes.
We haven't
that's
talked
the-
fire EMS.
That's the
No.
law enforcement part of the radio equipments and the consoles and the micro equipment is that 1.2.
What about fire and?
And when they did their demonstration.
Baby steps.
We talked to them and we're looking, AFG maybe, the federal grant out there and doing a regional grant with AFG. Like I said, Mike said. baby
Sometimes
steps.
with fire departments, they have more ability to get grants than what law enforcement does. And that's why we're looking at it this way, plus the officer safety stuff. And then hopefully it works for us, so then it should work for fire. I mean, we may, like Brian said, we may have to look at a tower somewhere too.
So are you gonna be communicating this with the cities in Jackson
I
County? as
have been
well?
kind of keeping them up to date on my part of my city, and I'm also.
'Cause they're
throwing-
getting some of that.
I'm also
CARES money too.
throwing that out there for our equipment. So that's the thing that I feel some of those cities need to look at. That too, and get their skin in the game a little bit too, because they, to be honest with you, nobody's budgeted for radios for years.
Oh, no, we
Because
haven't. I
911's
mean,
been paying
back,
for them.
way back when I was at,
Yep.
that surcharge
Yep.
bought everybody what they wanted, so
Yep.
much a year that they could
And
have.
then we just narrow banded a few, I don't know how many years ago was that, 10? We
At
bought a whole
least.
bunch of radios then too. And, I think that the other entities in the county need to realize that there's some cost to this. And we need to get their skin in the game too, in my opinion.
Well, I agree. I think that they need to know
Mm-hmm.
what the alternative is, and the alternative is not good.
Right, right.
Well, they need to know the cost too.
Yes.
Well, sure they do.
Yeah, these aren't cheap radios.
And we can and will work with them. I mean, whether it's agency by agency, department by department or whatever. I mean, so just know that, we can work up those numbers pretty easily.
Just tell them to listen to Cammy or get on the cable station and watch this presentation.
So how much does it cost for a radio repeater and a handheld radio?
Well, good question.
Yeah, so ballpark, and again, I'm gonna be honest with you, loaded question, FYI. So
There's different levels of.
No, there's lots of different
Depends on what
levels,
radio you buy.
but in terms of, just dual band, which means you can.
For
talk
what's sitting on that table?
Absolutely. 5,000, 4,000, 9,000, 3,000. So I
And a repeater is
Yeah,
probably
so-
about 2,000.
yeah, so high level,
257,
Hi-
at the high would be
I-
8.
so I would say, at ballpark, call it $12,000 or $13,000 for a setup of a mobile portable and repeater. And that's, again, to Mike's comment, is, dual band, which means you can talk on your current VHF and you can talk on new 7,800. I just want you, that's important. If you go with a single band only, then this is the only coverage you're using. Well, then.
We ain't gaining nothing if we go single.
I'm just saying, so.
So is that enough for 3 people then? Or 4?
No, that
That's-
was one.
that's one squad
One
car.
setup.
One
So
squad
that's,
car.
Yeah.
that's what I was
That
thinking
squad
about.
car
We
shared,
have 10,
Right.
10
isn't it?
Yeah.
11? Well, so if you take, that's what I was like, if you take 11 or 12 deputies, I was like, 12,000 a piece, that's right. Is that
So-
the
so
right way
like-
to look at it?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
so,
You have fewer squad cars, but actually probably more deputies. You might have to buy some more handhelds.
yeah.
But at a
So
high
like,
level, you're-
for example, us, we would look at, we have 5 working squad cars, so
Mhm.
that would be around 10,000 for each squad car setup.
Mm-hmm.
And then a handheld for 11 officers and 10 reserve officers. So I would be buying more handhelds
Yeah.
that work with that system then, but you guys, the county would be per car probably, because each deputy has all their own equipment.
Right.
So it'd be per car, so you got 11 cars, so you'd have $12,000 setups,
Yep.
basically. Yeah, so that's how we look at that.
That's the number I was looking for.
I thought you and I were thinking the same thing.
And for any sort of transparency or anything, obviously, we can get you. I mean, the quantities and the numbers that went to each law enforcement agency for this 500,000 ask, just to kind of show. I mean, and it would be the same for fire down the road. Well, this one said this many or asked that type of thing. So absolutely.
What's your time frame?
Well, officer
Sorry.
safety wise, I'd like to get it as soon as possible, but obviously, with baby steps, like Mike said, and I don't know what the time frame for equipment would be, I know.
Well, I'll be the bad guy,
Yeah.
quote unquote, in the room
Yeah.
in terms of, you talk about baby steps and kicking the can for a long time. I mean, this pricing, I mean, is only good for another 60 days. And I can say that only because it's been a year since we talked about, I mean, if you went all in, I wouldn't be able to honor the price that I talked to you about a year ago. I mean, with all the different sites and stuff. And we just had, I mean, an 8 to 10% increase. I mean, in July 1st, because of everything that's going on with supply constraints and circuit boards and things. And so I'm holding prices that are almost a year ago. I mean, for the radios and these dispatch consoles. So, I mean, you're looking at, I mean, signing by the end of October for that portion. Excuse me. And then after that, I mean, you get outside of that window, I'd have to record it.
Well, we need to know what those figures are.
Yeah.
So send them to us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'm available, as I'm sure you guys, if you need follow-up meeting or when it is, I mean, an actual item on the agenda potentially or whatever, if someone were to come in for a public hearing or need something.
We'll keep you
Just
informed.
let me know.
So there's 3 radios there, right?
4, yep.
And you need 4 in each car.
No, this is
No,
just
they're different
visually
types of
trying.
radios.
This is
You
visually
don't
trying
need all them
to
radios,
show
just one of
you.
them.
You just need
Just
one of
them.
them.
Okay.
And then there's a vehicular repeater, which is not represented here. Basically, it's getting you this coverage for this guy out of his own.
Mobile radio, need a portable radio and a repeater. in each car.
This is just more of a fire version than more of a bomb.
Through funding, I hear the need for a Distix radio. I'm running that in the EMA vehicle right now, with my handheld with a computer.
You know, honestly, because it was just, but I'm not sure.
Thanks for your time, gentlemen, you put in, and thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
So does that have like the locator on it?
Have a good day.
So if somebody's out of there, you can
Did you
down.
get your?
It has that capability to have GPS on it, yes.
phone bills?
For everything.
It's not like,
Warrington somehow.
it wouldn't be constant, like every second thing, but
Thank
would
you.
have GPS capability to, if you needed to, there's the other thing is last location.
And then I will forward you the, probably now, I mean,
Well,
the email with all the law enforcement bids and all that.
I think I guess that's what I'm asking. If you don't mind doing that, I'd appreciate it. I think this is important information and
I
should
agree.
anyone have.
For what, you mean, okay, for all the agencies?
Well,
Oh, yeah, Bellevue PD and Bellevue City
So,
Council
yeah,
and
obviously, yeah, all that.
Preston, Sevilla,
Yeah,
Makoka.
I just think it's important that we keep the information that was presented today. So if you could do that, I'd
Yeah, I'll
appreciate
get
it.
it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. I think the one takeaway is that just making sure, don't let any, and this is typical, any city to city or county to county decisions or politics hold up at least the dispatch side of getting the consoles up and running. The radio portion of it takes a lot longer and has got a lot more cooks in the kitchen. So I mean, I would at least be focusing on that 700K number to get the dispatch consoles and microwave going. Because that's a 6 to 9 month process, even once you sign.
And that's one of the, I guess Bob didn't touch on his bullet point number 6 was dispatch councils are starting to reach their age limits and will be forced to upgrade them within the next couple of years, regardless of what work is done. So. And talking to Clinton County, they run the same Z-Tron consoles as we did. They just bought theirs. And basically what he talked about, they put 8 radios in the back room and they're not core connected, so they have trouble doing.
They're already looking at shelving a fairly recent purchase and buying Motorola core connected consoles because of the functionality that gives them on it.
How's your lead time on your equipment?
So again, just like the price increases, the constraints are there. I mean, in terms of, actual radios, meaning that, like in my backpack here, you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, And then the consoles itself, like I said, that's more of a project where we assign a post-sale engineer and a post-sale project manager and get our civil team for the 50 or 60 foot tower across the street and stuff. That's, like I said, a 6 to 9 month process before it starts and done. So,
Thank you very much.
But it could be contracted in, correct?
what's that?
It could be contracted into that. correct?
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You get better pricing even off a state contract once you bundle things together. I mean, just. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Lynn has everything I just shared today. I mean, to be able to give to you. if you need it.
Okay, it's gonna be great.
We won't be able to buy a candy bar at the rate we're going.
When we first done the study and they come back with 9 million, it was a pretty scary number.
Yeah, this is a hell of a lot better than 9 million, but
And what's even scarier is that they can impose a emergency levy.
Oh, okay.
What I just handed you is a tour on August 17th, which is a day at your meeting. So Mike Griffin thinks they can do it after the meeting or a time when you guys can all go, but something to think about. You might need to reschedule if you want to do it at the time.
What
I've
time
seen
is my
3 of them
meeting?
Presentations already.
what'd you say?
I think I've seen 3 of them presentations already.
These or this?
No, this.
Oh,
This, no, yeah, I've seen that.
Well, this is after our meeting.
They didn't set a time. They just agreed to meet on the 17th and do a tour of sites. But we have our regular meeting that morning and you have conservation that night, tentatively anyway.
I think I need to be in Des Moines that night.
Well, I know where the sites are. I
On the
know what the sites
17th.
look like. I'm more interested in
that's
what
on
they
the
come for.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's
All right.
17th.
I mean, I know what the sites look like. You know, a solar site or whatever it might be. I'd like to know the study that we're doing. I want to see the information.
yeah,
from the
that's
study.
what I want.
That's what I want too. I want to see what.
Boy, it sure didn't take them long to get the solar panels out at
No.
the interpretive center.
They're up, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
They were done Monday,
Really?
except to wire them into the building.
Yeah, they're up.
I'll take
I
a-
I was
drove out by.
expecting more.
More
I was
panels.
expecting a bigger panel setup, you
Well,
know?
there were 2 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought they looked pretty big.
Well, maybe I only seen the first one then because I was.
There's
coming
one
by.
behind and then
Yeah.
one in front.
I see on the. Wait, that one between Bellevue and Andrew. There's a huge panel set going up on, well, I call it the old Pooler, or it still is a Pooler farm as you go down through the dip. That whole used to be a barnyard, is all solar panels.
Oh,
And they're putting it up right now.
So on the radio this morning, they said Iowa last year for 2020 is at 58% of all our electricity was generated from wind or solar. 58%, that's the
Renewable
highest
energy.
in the nation for alternative energy.
wow.
And again,
It's just short of 5,600 wind turbines in
Well,
Iowa.
with this information,
5600, no?
we need to keep it on our agenda for the next few agendas anyway and discuss where we might be or want to be. if
Well,
someone
he's
wants
gonna
to
send us some additional
throw
material.
some numbers together. and-
Numbers and-
And what do you want, how do you want that listed on the pending of the,
Just
911
work
radio
session.
system.
okay,
911 radio update.
Yeah.
County coverage.
Discussion and action on all of them, so we don't have to take action, but it's possible.
you want it on there for action every week or just the further discussion on tables? and
I would
pending
put
items
discussion / possible action.
Yeah, we don't have to.
On every agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, under Lisa,
Sure,
we're gonna have to do that way, I think.
sure. I'm happy with that.
You're a big umbrella.
So can they use,
I just
can
took
they
on-
use some of their surcharge for that too?
I think so, yeah.
I would think because that's what we used to always
So
buy
how-
their
I didn't wanna
radios
ask,
with.
And I don't mean to be in,
And
put you on
yeah,
the
so
spot,
they
but how
put it
much does
down.
911 have? I mean.
Well, you have to look at the balance in that. Yeah, I don't know where we're at. And then
Wouldn't
what that all-
Shelley know?
What that all covers.
I will talk to her.
I think it's numbers that we need to have in front of us and.
Not this week.
No, I get it. I
Maybe
get it,
next
no, but
week.
like he said, if he's talking 60 days out, we need to make, I mean, so something like this to me helps everybody, encompasses the whole county, I guess.
Well, and let's not forget, by August 31st, we have an interim report that needs to be done for our art money. And, you know, we really need to, you know, focus on that. I don't know.
Okay, we don't have to have it all, what we're gonna allocate it all for.
I'm going to say no, I haven't read the report yet. I just.
Well,
got it from the
ISAC's not
federal
even gonna
government.
be over 2 days by August 31st.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, but we have to have this interim report done.
I don't know what this interim report all says.
I don't either. I just got it. I just received
Yeah.
it by email.
Yeah.
Last night.
I mean, I got 2 pages of stuff.
I'm gonna tell you, why worry about it? Jesus, Mary and Joseph, just send the form over to Nick. He'll have that thing figured out. We won't have a dime left.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about how to spend it.
Okay, we got something to discuss yet, or we're gonna adjourn?
Bjorn, aren't I awful?
What's the wishes
I
of the
would
board?
make a motion to adjourn if there's no further business.
I thought we did that. Oh, no, we stayed on.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would second.
Oh. Yeah, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.